Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto and the tailed beasts traveled back in time, and Hinata, Ino, Temari, Yugito, Fu and Tenten fell for him part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. When Naruto pushed the front gate of the tower opened, he was taken aback as not only Haku's team, but everyone of the Konoha 12 was all there. Ah, it's Naruto and his team, Shino said flatly. Naruto gaped. What the? How could you guys get here so fast? Somehow we all found the forest littered with unconscious genin, with kunai, shuriken, burned explosive tags and many other things scattered around them, Shikamaru answered with a shrug. It made everything less troublesome a little bit, though. Yeah, Choji added, while chewing on his chips. The one we found our scroll on looked like he took a kitchen sink and a toilet seat to the head, Poor him. The other members of Team 7 shot glares at Naruto. What? The blonde protested. It's not like they were my fault. That just proves that my idea worked like a charm. It was you. Gah. Everyone hurriedly moved to pull Kiba away from Naruto when the Inuzuka's hands closed around the blonde boy's neck and squeezed. Let me go. Let me go, you idiots. Let me kill him. Kiba screamed hysterically while struggling like crazy against the arms of Choji, Shino and Lee. Release me. I order you. Release me. What's wrong with him? Sasuke asked Hinata, who was looking at her teammate with worrying eyes. The Hyuga girl shook her head. Oh, Kiba-kun suffered quite badly with those traps, she explained. He was stuck in a sheet of cloth drenched in glue, covered in tar and chicken feather, blasted in the face with a cloud of pepper and thrown into a river with all those on his body. Oh, and he ate a stink bomb by mistake. Let me go. Let me at him. I'll kill him. Everyone winced. Poor him, Haku said sympathetically. Even to Kiba, that was still too much, Shikamaru added. HMPH, Neji, from behind, spoke up with a sneer. Relying on petty tricks like that, how pathetic. That was the only thing a dead last like you was worthy of. Naruto ignored him. Let me go. Damn you. I said. Goo. That last sound was due to Sakura chopping him at the back of his neck, sending him into the land of unconsciousness. What did you just do? Ino gaped in horror. Sakura shrugged nonchalantly. Well, he's too loud. I just made him sleep for a while. Meanwhile, Naruto was staring at Hinata as if she was an alien. The Hyuga girl blushed. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? You just completed a very long sentence without any stuttering. That was awesome, Hinata-chan. You finally got rid of your bad habit. Hinata's blush deepened, but she didn't say anything else. Guys, the voice of Tenten suddenly rose behind them. What do you think we should do with these? She held up the 2 scrolls. Naruto grinned. Open them up, of course. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. But didn't that proctor say that we couldn't open them? That crazy lady only said that we couldn't open them until we get to the tower, right? Naruto answered with another grin. Now we're in the tower, why shouldn't we open them? But what will happen if we open them? Haku asked worriedly. Who knows? But that will make it more fun. Everyone shuddered. Naruto's definition of fun, after the forest event, has become something utterly dangerous in their point of view. All right. Here goes nothing. All the scrolls were opened at the same time. When exposed to the air, the inside parts of the scrolls started smoking. Wah! Startled, everyone threw their scrolls to the ground as if they were made of acid. The scrolls, lying on each other, smoked even more, and started glowing red. Everyone braced themselves, preparing for a fight when the scrolls exploded and covered the room with a cloud of white smoke. When the smoke cleared, the genin were all treated with a bizarre, but pretty funny scene. In front of them were their Jonin sensei, well, most of them, sprawling on the ground. Zabuza was at the bottom of the human pile. His face was planted to the ground by Asuma's butt. The latter was lying back first on the huge Kubikiribocho, facing Kurenai in a position that made their, rather private parts rubbing against each other, and her well-endowed landing right on his hands, not that he minded anyway. And on top of them was Guy, lying across Kurenai's back with a dazed expression on his face. The only one standing was Kakashi, who had his favorite orange book on his hand as usual. Well, that's weird, Kakashi noted in an amusing tone when realizing what happened to his fellow Jonin. OWWW, groaned Guy. What the heck happened? Why are we lying on top of each other like this? This is so unyouthful. A lusty moan from Kurenai answered him. It was because Asuma just squeezed her. All the genin blushed. Ew. Ino winced in disgust. This is definitely not something I want to see. Kakashi chuckled. Kurenai, Asuma, would you mind if I say you should leave your intimate moment till you get back to your bedroom? Because you are scarring our students over there. Besides, I don't think Zabuza appreciates it very much. MMMMMMPPPPPPHHHHHH. From below Asuma's behind, the devil of the hidden mist screamed, or at least, tried to, in agreement. Kurenai's face immediately reddened, and she jumped away from Asuma, so fast that she threw Guy off her back. The taijutsu master was flung away, his bottom slammed hard on the ground and his body skidded a few meters before stopping at a wall nearby. Disturbingly, on Asuma's face was a happy, dazed expression. What are you doing here? Tenten asked hesitantly. Immediately, Guy flipped back up as if his back had a spring under it, and brandished his trademark youthful thumb up. Don't worry, my youthful students. We are here to greet you and congratulate you for completing the second part of the Chunin exam. Yosh. We finally did it. Lee pumped his fist to the sky and hollered. Guy also howled. Tears started falling from his eyes like two tiny waterfalls. I'm so proud of you, Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. What was that? Haku's teammate, Chojuro, screamed when the sunrise genjutsu started forming on the background. Tenten sighed. Trust me, you don't want to know. Just ignore it. It's still kinda disturbing, though. Naruto winced. How is it that I, the one completely immune to genjutsu, can see it so clearly and is completely unable to dispel it? You're immune to genjutsu. Shikamaru glanced at Naruto questioningly. The latter shrugged. It's a long story. Still, Asuma said, finally managed to get a hold of himself. Getting through the forest of death in just half a day is quite an accomplishment. How did all of you manage to do that? Everyone glanced at Naruto. Oh, come on. Why are you all glaring at me as if I was a criminal? Naruto protested, and Sasuke snorted. Because you are the one that caused all of this, that's why. You, Sasuke. So you failed to capture Orochimaru. We're sorry, Hokage-sama. The Anbu captain with the owl mask bowed his head. We tried our best, but Orochimaru ran away too fast. What we didn't understand was the fact that he ran away right after he saw us. Considering his ability, he might be able to hold himself against us for quite a while, or even outright defeat us. It's all right, I forgive you. But, the old Hokage continued in an amusing tone, if you look at this, you will understand why Orochimaru had to run away. The Anbu captain looked behind his Hokage's back, and his eyes widened. Had he not wearing a mask, everyone could have seen how many teeth he had in his mouth. Holy crap, what kind of jutsu can make this kind of damage? He stuttered, pointing at the ridiculously large crater which he clearly remembered didn't exist in the forest the previous day. Lying inside it were fragments of something that looked suspiciously like a 30-inch thick door of a gate. And that's why you don't mess with a Jinchuriki with full control of his tailed beast, coming back from the future, Orochimaru, Sarutobi thought with a slight smirk. Naruto was bored out of his mind. No one had ever told him that he had to stay in the tower until the second task was over. It's not like they didn't have enough for him to live here, but seriously, it's so boring. They didn't even have ramen in the menu. Right now, he was sitting on the bed in his team's room. Sasuke and Sakura had gone to the main hall for a spar. Having nothing else to do, he ran through the process of constructing a blueprint for creation of all things once again. It's worth noting that Naruto couldn't do the technique with the original instruction from the beasts. It's just too complex, too abstract for a slow brain like his to follow. So Naruto did something no one could ever expect. He copied the steps of a similar technique in a certain novel he had read to replace what the beasts taught him. And, surprisingly, it worked. He concentrated on the image of a kunai in his head, judging the concept of creation, hypothesizing the basic structure, duplicating the material. These steps were easy. The kunai is so familiar a tool to shinobi that he didn't even have to rack his brain for it. A knife. Steel. 25 centimeters long. Pointy at the tip, with a double-edged blade. Cloth wrapped around the handle, imitating the processes of its making. He struggled briefly as his brain attempted to recall every process perfectly. In his mind, the image of a blacksmith slamming his hammer down on the anvil flashed. Sympathizing with the experience of its growth. Reproducing the accumulated years. Naruto winced. These steps were always the most difficult. This is the main obstacle which hinders him from creating objects, or rather, recreating already existing ones. Try hard as he might, he couldn't seem to grasp all events the knife on his hand, or everything he wanted to create, had experienced during their lives. It was a step that was just beyond his ability. Because of that, he could never create anything which could be considered perfect. Even the clothes he was wearing right now would just disappear after a month at best, and a few minutes at worst. And he has to learn everything, yes, everything about the object he wants to create by heart if he wants to recreate it. The structure, the materials, the history, everything. It's not like he has an infinite library which can record everything he sees in a blink of an eye, anyway. Luckily for him, he had managed to find a way around that. By altering the design of the thing he wanted to recreate slightly, for example, making a sleeveless and orange jacket instead of an originally black and sleeved one with similar design, he turned it into a completely new creation that never existed before, and thus had absolutely no history in its life, basically giving the creation the history it never had. Thanks to this, creating a blueprint became much easier for him. Well, only if the design in his head was, fortunately, unique, anyway. There might be a chance that the design was used without his knowing. Therefore, his creation of all things didn't always work as it should be. And if he couldn't even do something like creating inanimated things properly, the higher levels like modifying his body, or creating living things would be next to impossible. He sighed and relaxed, and the half-completed blueprint in his head faded away. Good job Oni-chan, you already had a grasp of it, Saikyo smiled her satisfaction. Yeah, Naruto sighed. But this is still nowhere near perfect. If I cannot use it perfectly, how can I hope of creating awesome living things like the sage or old man Hashirama? Not noticing the cringing of the slug at mentioning of the name, Naruto blurted out what he just remembered. Speaking of old man Hashirama, Saikyo-chan, how did he die? He is so incredible his power was enough to subdue Madara, and he also had someone like you with him, Saikyo-chan. Saikyo-chan, are you there? No answer. The connection between Naruto and the slug was completely cut off. Naruto started panicking. What the heck had happened to her? Do you even have to ask? You screwed up. Big. The voice of Kurama suddenly rising in his head made him jump from the bed. Kurama, what do you mean I screwed up? The vixen sighed. Come into your mindscape and I will explain. So what did I do wrong, Kurama? The vixen didn't give a straight answer. Rather, she asked, do you know about the Uzumaki clan, Naruto? Naruto was startled. The Uzumaki clan, it was his clan. The clan with exceptional mastery in Fuinjutsu. The clan with the powerful chakra and life force, together with incredible longevity. The clan which has the deepest alliance with the Senju clan and Konohagakure since the beginning of the village. And the clan which was wiped out sometimes after his mother, Kushina, settled in Konoha. But what does it have to do with Saikyo? As if understanding what Naruto was thinking, Kurama said. The destruction of the Uzumaki clan and Uzushiogakure is very famous. However, there is another battle involving the Uzumaki clan which was never shown in any historical document. It was the battle that took the life of Hashirama. Naruto's curiosity was aroused. What happened there? Kurama closed her eyes. It was during a visit of Hashirama and his wife to Uzushiogakure when he was still the first Hokage. In this day of destiny, an alliance of Kumogakure, Iwagakure and Kurigakure decided to attack the village. Being the ally of Uzushiogakure, of course Hashirama and Mito went to help. With the assistance from the man called as the god of shinobi, Uzushiogakure managed to hold them in a stalemate, and nearly turned the table. Wow, old man Hashirama was awesome. Naruto cheered happily, pumping his fists. Until Madara appeared. Naruto's hands froze in midair. What? You heard me, Kurama nodded bitterly. Madara was the one behind the attack. And unlike before, This time he had awakened the Rinnegan from the piece of DNA he took from Hashirama during the battle at the valley. Like that wasn't enough, he also managed to seal me into him. Yeah, Hashirama didn't reclaim me after the battle at the valley as many had mistaken. Blood in Naruto's veins went cold after this declaration. That's right, Kurama continued. With the Rinnegan and my chakra, his power finally surpassed Hashirama. He would have completely flattened Uzushiogakure with his Chibaku Tensei had Hashirama not taunted him to lure him to the sea outside of the village. And they fought. Then, what happened next? Did old man Hashirama win? Naruto asked in thrill, and Kurama nodded with a sigh. Yes, he did. Even overpowered, Hashirama managed to defeat Madara, again. But that victory came with a heavy price. Right before he could land the killing blow on Madara, he hesitated. I didn't know what he was thinking, but his hand just stopped before his final jutsu landed on Madara. And that's what that despicable Uchiha had been waiting for. He took the opening Hashirama made to impale him and tried to pull his soul out with the human path. But Hashirama's extreme willpower, or maybe Psycho inside him, I don't know, somehow held his soul back long enough for him to perform a jutsu that ripped me off Madara's body. If Naruto's shock and awe had been great before this, it was nothing comparing to how he looked now. The expression in his face was a mixture of horror, amazement and curiosity. Then, he died, Kurama answered curtly. That final jutsu took everything left in Hashirama's body, and his soul was pulled away. But that didn't make Madara the winner. You already knew what would happen if a tailed beast was ripped off the Jinchuriki. Madara, thanks to his Rinnegan and Hashirama's DNA, didn't die, but his body was so messed up that he couldn't even use another simple jutsu just to take himself out of there. Even the Rinnegan couldn't fix his body after that. Had it not been for me, well, going rampage after that, and someone rescued him, he would have been killed by Mito and the Uzumaki clan. I'm sorry, she added with a hint of embarrassment and regret in her tone. So that's how Mito Bachan became your Jinchuriki, Naruto mumbled, and Kurama nodded. Yes. After that, leaders of the 5 great shinobi villages and the Uzumaki clan had a meeting. The Mizukage, the Raikage and the Tsuchikage didn't want to admit their fault. They were too embarrassed to admit the fact that not one, but 3 Kage of great villages were tricked and controlled by one man so easily and effortlessly. After 3 days of argument, they finally came to an agreement that the event would not be recorded into history, and no one would ever speak about it again. That's why only very few people knew about it, and most of them were dead already. I see, but what does that have to do with Psycho-chan anyway? Naruto asked in confusion. Because Psycho thought that it was her fault Hashirama died. Naruto jumped. The other beasts had come behind him since who knows when. After she revived, she was nothing like the Psycho we knew anymore. She became shy, withdrawn and cold to nearly everyone. When she was with Utakata, she seemed to open herself a little bit, but now, after his death, I don't know, said Matabi sadly. How did she work that one out? Naruto asked, horrified. Well, she was together with Hashirama-san when they fought Madara, right? Chome shrugged. Well, sort of. I think she feels that if only she had worked more perfectly with the old man, Madara couldn't have murdered him. Yeah, Kokuo agreed. And I think that's why she can't use her power like she used to. It's just like, she's having trouble with it. Before, whenever we went rampaging, she would always be there to stop us. After Hashirama's death, really, I thought she's awesome as she is now. Didn't she use her wood style to restrain Kurama and Chome before? Kurama rolled her eyes. She used to make the whole forest around Konoha together with Hashirama. Now she could only make mere vines. Is that what you call not having trouble, Naruto? That's right, Matabi added. And that's only when she's in a good mood. When her mood's down, she couldn't use her power at all. It just doesn't manifest, no matter how hard she try. Poor girl. Naruto's brain went numb and frozen. If what the beast said was true, he really did screw up. No, wait, Naruto suddenly waved his hand while shaking his head frantically. That doesn't make sense at all. If that's the case, why should Psycho-chan worry about it? It's not like it's her fault, right? She couldn't do anything about it. The tailed beasts looked at each other awkwardly. Naruto, that's exactly why she blamed herself. Gyuki shook his head. It is survivor's guilt, you know. I think you of all people would be the one who understand this best. Do you remember when Neji died to protect you? Do you remember when Hinata and Sakura were impaled while trying to save you? You were there, looking at them dying, and couldn't do anything to help. Have you ever feel hopeless and regret that you were alive, but all the other ones close to you were dead right before your eyes? Worse, when they die because of you. When Naruto nodded dumbly, he nodded and continued. Well, Saikyo is the same. Tailed beast or not, she is still a girl. And you cannot expect a girl to take it as well as a boy. Come to think of it, being a tailed beast only makes it worse. Tailed beasts usually don't have friends. Almost everyone treats us as monsters or weapons, even other animals are scared of us. It is very rare for us to have someone who cares for us, or treats us as equal. And Saikyo got 2 of them killed right in front of her eyes. Do you think that will not leave a scar to her mind? Naruto couldn't find any word to reply. What Gyuki said was true. When the old man was killed by Orochimaru, he wasn't even there to help. He didn't even know that his grandfather figure was killed until after he subdued Gaara and returned to the village. After that, despite not expressing his sadness out in the open, he hadn't been able to sleep at all for over a month. And that's when he was still a kid. And after his precious people were murdered by Madara in that final battle of destiny, isn't it true that he lost all his will to fight and let himself be captured by the mad Uchiha? Naruto suddenly bolted up from his sitting place. What are you doing, Naruto? Isobu asked. Naruto answered him with a serious expression. I'm going to find her. I screwed up. I will have to fix it. Saikyo, in her human form, was curling up inside a cave on a mountain in Naruto's mindscape, crying her heart out. It's not like she wanted to do that. But whenever the name Hashirama was spoken of, horrible memories of that day immediately rushed back into her head. Different from humans, tailed beasts do not age. They were created with the mindsets of different ages right at the beginning. They stay in the world as long as there is still chakra, yet their minds stay the same, no matter how long they exist. Because of that, although having knowledge and power, Saikyo was still just a 12-year-old kid in mind. And a kid's mind, no matter how old she is no way enough to stand the trauma of having her most precious person, the first person after her father who treated her as family, being killed right in front of her. Just like Sasuke had suffered when Itachi killed his father and mother. Even Utakata Nichin, the one who acted as her brother figure later, couldn't replace him in her mind. But Saikyo isn't Sasuke. She isn't a boy. She didn't go around spouting nonsense about revenge. Instead, she curled up into a ball and cried. Being named the strongest by father and her siblings, she was blessed with the power to give lives and solve conflicts. Yet she is just a pathetic kid who couldn't do anything to save the people she loves. Burying her face on her knees, Saikyo continued crying, even harder than before. Saikyo-chan. Finally found you. She lifted her head, and realized that she was looking into a pair of blue eyes. Oni-chan. Naruto sat down next to her and grinned awkwardly while scratching his head. In his smile, there was a hint of sadness and regret. Saikyo-chan, I'm really sorry for hurting your feeling before, I didn't know that you had to suffer so much. The slug girl didn't answer. Instead, her face sunk even further into her knees. No, please, don't cry again. Naruto hastily said, waving his hands. Looking at you crying hurts me so much, I don't want to see you like this, please. He sighed in relief when she only let out a slight sniffle. But Saikyo-chan, I know I'm not in the position to tell you this, but please don't blame yourself too much about it, he continued. I don't think Hashirama Jiji will be pleased to see you like this. How can he rest comfortably in heaven if he knew you tortured yourself whenever you thought about him? You don't understand, she murmured quietly, and Naruto nodded with a sigh. Yeah, it might be true that I cannot understand what you have been through. But I know what it feels when my precious people die. When the old man was killed, I wasn't even there to help him. It's not better than being unable to do anything to help. And I was devastated. I felt that I was useless. I couldn't even protect the person I loved the most in this world. It felt like the world was collapsing around me. He was, well, the first person in this world who had been nice to me, and the closest one I have for a father and a grandfather. I couldn't stop crying for a week. Saikyo's eyes widened under her bangs. Naruto Ni-chan, he was just like her. Naruto stopped and took a deep breath. But then, when I finally managed to calm myself down, I started thinking. No matter how much I cry, he is never coming back to us. But his death was not meaningless. He offered his life to stop a very dangerous person who tried to destroy our village. He faced death at will for the sake of the village. That was something which must be honored, not mourned about. So I pushed my sadness away. I thought that if I continued torturing myself like that, it would just be the same as spitting on his efforts. And all the others who had died for me, well, I used to lost myself when I saw them dying in front of me, but now, when I think of them, I feel like their powers are flowing through my veins. They gave me their strength, and their hopes for a good future, and I won't let their efforts wasted. The images of Neji, Hinata, Sakura, Sasuke and all the other people who died in the final battle flashed across his eyes. He had to close them to stop the tears from spilling out. I'm not trying to tell you to throw the image of Hashirama Jiji out of your head, Saikyo-chan, Naruto continued. But please remember, he is not the only one who loves you in this world. You still have your brothers and sisters, and you have me, too. Seeing you like this hurt me so much. I cannot say that I will be the one who replaces Hashirama Jiji, but I swear on my life that I will do everything I can for you, and I will protect you with everything I got. After all, an older brother protects his younger sister, right? He added with a grin. The slug's eyes widened even further. Protecting his younger sister. Saikyo, no matter what you did before, you are still the one I consider my little sister. And I will not let you be taken by those Akatsuki. I will do everything to protect you, even if it cost me my life. Utakata Ni-chan had said that to her when they're facing pain. He's the same, as Naruto Ni-chan. Wah! Naruto was startled when Saikyo suddenly grabbed his shirt and cried her heart into it. Please Oni-chan, she whispered between hiccups. Please don't leave me again. Everyone who was close to me all left me. I can't take it anymore. If you leave, Please, stay with me. Don't leave me. Naruto couldn't say a word for a while. Then, he smiled and hugged Saikyo, while patting the girl's hair gently. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here for you, always. In the real world, the sun was descending down the horizon. First of all, congratulations on passing the second task of the Chunin exam. The voice of the third Hokage boomed around the hall. It's the end of the fifth day, and now, all the remaining competitors were gathering in the great hall of the tower. Naruto looked around. This time, there were also 21 competitors left, including all the rookie 12 of Konoha and the Sand siblings. Though, Kabuto's team and the team from Sound couldn't make it this time. Replacing them were Haku's team and the team of the redhead from Kusagaku. He zoned out from the speech of the old man about the exam being a life-risking battle, a form of war for the allied villages, blah blah blah, and Hayate announcing the preliminary. You know, I've been wondering. How could it be that the ones who got past the forest in our time were all rookies? Isn't this forest a hard challenge even for experienced Chunin? Yeah, but that's because your creator said so. Besides, you guys are main characters. If the main characters were excluded, what would the story become? Well, now that you said. Stop demolishing the fourth wall, you two. Yes, sir. Kabuto walked out of the forest with a smile. His mission as a spy was completed. He had researched the village thoroughly during his time here, and known all about every shinobi of all ranks in the village. Now, everything was in their place for the invasion to start. Although, he couldn't find any other information about the mysterious Team 7 lead by Kakashi, except for the old ones from their first A-rank mission to Waves. But no matter, he will get them later. They're just genin, so how hard can it be? His train of thought was cut abruptly when Ibiki Morino appeared in front of him, with 10 Anbu surrounding him. Kabuto Yakushi, under the order of the Hokage, you are under arrest for traitorous actions against Konohagakure. Crap. Sakura Haruno vs. Nameless Grass Mook number 1. Ha. As if a pathetic little girl like me can do anything to me. This jutsu of mine will. Hee. The grass ninja foamed at the mouth and collapsed to the ground after letting out a girlish scream, his eyes rolling back into his head. At the same time, All males in the room cringed and suddenly had the same urge to cover their crotches. Winner, Sakura Haruno. Sakura. Naruto sputtered when the girl arrived at the place where Team 7 was standing on the balcony. Why did you do that? Oh, that, Sakura answered nonchalantly. Enko-sensei taught me that the most effective way to fight is to aim for the most delicate and mortal place on the body, and launch one decisive strike. And one of those positions on a male's body is his crotch. Sasuke and Naruto unconsciously inched away from Sakura. And Kakashi now started regretting his decision of leaving his student on the hand of a sadist like Anko. Shikamaru Nara vs. Nameless Grass Mook number 2. I still have to fight. What a drag. The ninja from Grass looked at the pineapple head in front of him with wary eyes. His teammate was taken down by the Konoha Kunoichi in one hit. So he couldn't afford to be careless against those Konoha shinobi. That brat looked quite weak physically. He decided to launch a taijutsu move at him to test. Shikamaru dodged, then turned tail and ran away. What the? That's what every genin except for Naruto and Team 10's members chorused when they saw what was happening. Damn it, brat. Stop running away and fight me. No, that's too troublesome, was the only answer. Is he always like this? Hiba asked when Shikamaru and his opponent started chasing each other around the arena. Choji nodded while chewing. But I think he has a plan. There is always a plan in his head, Then suddenly, the grass genin stopped dead on his track. He found that he couldn't even move a muscle. Shadow possession jutsu. Success. Shikamaru said in a bored tone. How? The grass nin croaked out the only word he could mutter. Instead of answering, Shikamaru looked up. The grass shinobi's head rose with the motion, and his eyes widened. No way. The balcony. Yes, the balcony, the Nara boy smirked. Because of the light of this room, its shadow is pretty large. I ran away just to lead you into its shadow, and use that shadow to extend my own shadow until it reached yours. Shadow Jutsu of the Nara clan, Asuma smiled proudly. Specializes in immobilizing enemies. Very effective in team fights, but only for the people with sharp mind and quick thinking, just like Shikamaru. Wow, Shikamaru is awesome. Hiba exclaimed. Shikamaru reached out his hands and did some motions behind his head. At the same time, the grass genin's headband dropped to the ground with a loud clang. Then he proceeded to smash his poor opponent's head against the wall. After 5 minutes, the grass genin managed to croak out his forfeit, then fainted. Sasuke palmed his face. I really don't know what to say about this match. Winner, Shikamaru Nara. Rock Lee vs. Ino Yamanaka. Guy Sensei. I cannot fight her. She is a girl. Hurting a girl is unyouthful. Ino's forehead popped a vein. What do you mean when you say I am a girl? Never say that, my youthful student. The person in front of you is not a girl now. She is a youthful opponent, and by defeating her, the power of youth will explode once again. Another vein popped on Ino's forehead. Okay. Now what do you mean when you say I'm not a girl? Yosh. Then I will let all the power of my youth explode. Leaf hurricane. Wait. Wah. Bam. Crash. 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 Sakura winced. Poor Ino. Yeah. Naruto agreed. The power of youth is definitely not something to be underestimated. Winner. Rock Lee. 3 matches are done. That was fast. Naruto blinked. Yeah, but they cannot be considered matches. Sasuke shook his head. Sakura literally broke her opponent with a kick to the nut. Shikamaru did almost nothing other than running away. And the bushy brows match. No, just no. Seriously, is this the Chunin exam or a joke? So to you, only a fight with flashy explosive jutsu is good. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Sasuke turned slightly red. I didn't say that. Then it's your chance now. Naruto smirked, and pointed at the name board. Sasuke followed his finger, and also smirked. Sasuke Uchiha vs. Shiro Ikigaki. Who is Shiro Ikigaki? From the other side of the balcony, the white-haired teammate of Haku jumped down to the arena. A member of the new 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, equal to Zabuza. Sasuke's grin became wider. This is a good chance to show the fruit of all the training I did last month. Then without another word, he jumped across the banister. That Sasuke. He might not be the one obsessing with revenge like before, but his thirst for power is still there, Gyuki said worriedly. If Madara can get a hand on him in the future. Don't worry, Gyuki, Naruto interrupted him in a firm tone. This time I am here. If Madara wants to get to him, he will have to face me first. I will not let Sasuke fall into the hand of evil again. I swear on my life. Sasuke Uchiha-san, the boy gave a slight bow. I've heard about you from Zabuza-sensei and Haku-san. You are a formidable opponent, and I cannot let my guard down against you. Big words from the one who doesn't even have a sword, Sasuke taunted him, but the expression on the mist swordsman didn't even faze a bit. It's true I don't have a legendary sword of my own. But that doesn't mean I do not have my own sword to fight with. With two loud pops and a burst of smoke, two short, broad swords fell into Shiro's hands. Sasuke smirked, and drew his own katana. Then let's see how good you are with those swords. Two swords. Kakashi looked at Zabuza. You are training him to wield Kiba. What does he have to do with me? Kiba asked in confusion. Kakashi shook his head. Not you. Kiba. Kiba is the name of a pair of swords in the 7 legendary swords of Kurigakure. They are called the sharpest swords in existence, not only because they can boost the power of their wielder to the utmost limit, but also because they can transform the nature of their owner's chakra channeling into them into lightning, enhancing their cutting power greatly to the point that almost nothing in the world can survive a slash from them. As far as I know, they also allow the wielder to manipulate real lightning freely with only a little bit of chakra. Just as expected from Kakashi of the Sharingan, always has the information in his brain, Zabuza smirked. This boy is not the strongest shinobi in Kurigakure, but his potential is incredible. I see, Kakashi gave a furtive smile from under his mask. But my student is not someone to be underestimated either, Zabuza. Begin. With a kick to the ground, the white-haired swordsman dashed forward. That's not going to work. His charge was stopped. Sasuke was a natural in sword fighting. His katana was longer than Shiro's short swords. And the reckless movement of the Kiri boy had too many openings. With the Sharingan, they were easy to see. A thrust was aimed at Shiro's exposed stomach. Clang. Steel met steel. Sasuke's thrust was smashed away by one of the shorter swords. The short swords don't have the length, but they have the mass. Sasuke could feel his hand shaking lightly from the collision. The other one, at the same time, swung at Sasuke's neck. And with the Sharingan, Sasuke could see the real threat behind it. The descending sword was coated in lightning chakra. TCH. The Uchiha boy ducked, letting the lightning-imbued sword soar over his head. Very well, if you want to play that game. The katana in Sasuke's hand started glowing with electricity. He struck again. This time at Shiro's chest, where there was no protection, and showing another glaring opening. His katana was swatted away again, by another lightning-coated sword. Damn it! On the balcony, Kakashi was staring at Zabuza with a horrified eye. Zabuza, why did you teach that boy this kind of fighting style? It is too dangerous for a boy that age. Zabuza smirked. Without his old bandages, everyone could see the menacing shark-like fangs in his mouth. Kurigakure has different ways of training shinobi from Konohagakure, Kakashi. Besides, I am not the one who taught him that sword style. He created it himself. He created it himself. Kakashi's visible eye widened. That's right, Zabuza nodded. He has been longing to be the wielder of Kiba since he was a child. No one in Kurigakure had experience of fighting with twin swords, and he couldn't hope to access the Mizukage's vault for the secret of Kiba's swordplay. So he just practiced that absurd style again and again, and after 10 years, he finally managed to perfect it enough for a real fight. After 10 years, wait. How old is he right now? 15. Since 5, so he is a genius, Kakashi muttered. But Zabuza cut in. Genius. Oh please, he is anything but a genius. He is just a normal genin as any other genin in this world. He is not good at genjutsu, his ninjutsu and taijutsu are just adequate. The only thing he can be called good at is kenjutsu. It's his dream to become the strongest swordsman in the world that pushed him to the limit, making him the one he is today. Unlike Konohagakure, Kurigakure does not need geniuses, he sneered in the geniuses word, to keep it strong, in the reign of our new Mizukage. Kakashi couldn't find a word to say. At the far corner, Neji Hyuga snorted. There is no way a nameless normal person can ever catch up to a true genius. It's their destiny to fall against geniuses like him. Sasuke was frustrated. There was nothing special about that guy's fighting style. It was crude, reckless, and full of holes. Yet, he couldn't even find a way to land a hit on him. It's just like, he let him see the openings on purpose. No matter how fast he struck, the short swords were always there, blocking his attacks completely. His Sharingan allowed him to avoid all the attacks from his opponent, but if he couldn't even land a hit on Shiro, all the fighting would be meaningless. In fact, he was being pushed back, further and further, by the advancing Shiro. Who could possibly think that Sasuke Uchiha, a member of the Uchiha clan, possessing the fully unlocked Sharingan and a natural mastery of Kenjutsu, was being overwhelmed by a nameless genin in close combat? He gritted his teeth. If Kenjutsu didn't work, he would have to try another way. He jumped back a few steps, throwing his sword to the sky and weaved through hand seals. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. A fireball, much stronger than what Sasuke could have used before, shot out from his mouth towards Shiro in a very fast speed. It seemed Shiro was too surprised to do anything against it. A loud boom, and the room was covered in smoke. Is it over? Haku asked worriedly. Zabuza shook his head. No, not yet. 30 seconds passed, and Shiro emerged from behind the smoke. His body was full of scorching marks, but he wasn't injured. How is it possible? We all saw him being hit. Ino exclaimed in surprise. He drenched himself with a water jutsu right before the fireball hit, Kakashi answered her. No one had realized him pulling his headband up. His Sharingan now glued to the battle in the arena with unusual interest. It decreased the power of the fire jutsu considerably. You are a very powerful opponent, Uchiha-san. I don't want to do this, but with an opponent like you, I cannot afford to hold back anymore. Hidden Mist Jutsu. Say what? Was the shared thought of all Team 7 and Team 8 members right now. Mist started to gather inside the room. Sasuke cringed. Subjected to this jutsu once, he knew how deadly it could be, and what would happen if he could not find a way to counter it. Why did Sasuke-kun retreat like that? Sakura questioned when she saw Sasuke jump to the corner of the room and stayed there. That's the only thing he could do, Sakura, Kakashi answered. Within the mist screen, visual is useless. He cannot see where his opponent is, so he has to retreat into the corner to limit the directions Shiro can attack him from. Quick thinking. Then he threw a dirty look towards Zabuza. The mist swordsman only smirked. The jutsu finally covered the whole arena, blocking the vision of everyone from the two combatants. What they could see now in the arena was only white mist. Neji activated his Byakugan, then winced and shut them immediately. I can't see anything. All I can see is chakra. What is this? What in the world can block the vision of the Byakugan? The hidden mist jutsu is the secret jutsu of Kurigakure. It can block any type of vision. Even the three great dujutsu cannot see through it. Zabuza boasted. However, Kakashi could feel a very slight hint of worry in Zabuza's voice. Could it be? There. They started. Sakura yelled, and everyone turned their head to hear the sound of steel clashing against steel again. Wait a second. How could it be? Zabuza startled, his hands gripping the rail unconsciously squeezed it. How could he fend off Shiro when they're inside the mist? Once again, Kakashi chuckled, you underestimated my student, Zabuza. The Uchiha clan, their dujutsu is only one thing that made them the most powerful clan of Konohagakure. Fighting is in their genetics. Even without the Sharingan, their abilities in combat are still the most terrifying in Konohagakure. They don't always need their eyes to fight. Zabuza's eyes widened. You mean, the Uchiha boy is fighting my student only with pure instinct? That's impossible. Ah, but that's the truth. Kakashi gave him an eye smile. Luckily I trained him to fight without depending on his eyes for a whole month before the exam. Why didn't you teach me that, sensei? Naruto pouted. Kakashi shook his head while chuckling. You were trained by Jiraiya-sama, Naruto. Isn't he way better than a mere jonin like me? Naruto wisely shut up. Hidden Mist Jutsu is the core element of Kurigakure's famous silent killing assassination technique. It completely blocks the vision of the target, allowing the user to close in when the target is still confused and panic of losing their sight and deliver a decisive blow. It is what made the name of the Devil of the Hidden Mist, as well as all the other members of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. However, the technique has three glaring weaknesses. First, despite the fact that the hidden mist can hide the user from view, and silent killing can eliminate the sound, the user can still be tracked by smell. A tracker using the sense of smell, such as Kiba, can easily track down the user with his incredible nose. And a sensor can also follow the user, although with more difficulty as the mist is made from chakra. Second, the technique blocks the vision of the target, but it also means that the vision of the user is also blocked. Because of that, the technique only works if the target is panicked and stays in one place, or the user is a good tracker of smell or sound himself. Zabuza is a master in mind assault, so it is not hard for him to keep his targets in one place just by words alone. But with other people, it's not that easy. And third, it costs a humongous amount of chakra. Because of that, users of the silent killing technique usually tend to find ways to finish their fight as fast as possible. And that was the problem for Shiro at the moment. An apprentice of the devil of the hidden mist or not, he is still a genin. And a genin only has a limited amount of chakra. The hidden mist jutsu is his final trump card. When he uses it, he must make sure that he can finish his opponent as quickly as possible. However, he couldn't. He didn't expect the Uchiha boy to fight back so valiantly and stubbornly, even under such a huge disadvantage. Almost all the attacks he threw at him were blocked. It's just like the Uchiha's instinct had manifested a third eye which could see through even the mist. And he could feel his chakra level dropping quickly. But it's not like he couldn't do anything to the Uchiha. Even though the sword of Sasuke had been blocking most of his strikes, there were 2 or 3 strikes that went through and managed to injure him. He didn't know which part of the boy was struck, but he could see blood on his blades. There's no way the raven-haired boy could prolong this fight further with all those injuries. If he continued pressing on, he would win for sure. But the matter was, how long further could he press on? His chakra was only enough to maintain the hidden mist jutsu for about 3 more minutes. It would not be enough to force the Uchiha to lose. There was only one choice. He jumped back and focused, pushing more chakra into the jutsu. The mist screen now became so thick that even if they stood face to face, they wouldn't be able to see each other. He will put everything into this last strike. Even if he must kill Sasuke, he has to win. And his instinct screamed at him to dodge. He leaned to one side, right before a shuriken sword passed his face. From inside the mist, shuriken after shuriken was flying out every direction. He hastily stepped back and swung his swords to smash away the projectiles flying around him. What was his opponent doing? Sure, it might be easier hitting him in the mist that way, but he could block everything of that level. His back touched something that felt like a string. Finally got you. Lightning style. Shocking web. Immediately, Shiro felt like there was 1,000 volts of electricity running through his body. He gasped in pain. His lungs felt like they were being grilled in a blast furnace, and all of his muscles felt cold and numb. The mist swordsman's body started losing its senses, and he felt like his heart stopped for a moment. He dropped his swords and collapsed. Then it stopped. Only then he could feel the wires cutting into his skin. How? The mist started clearing, and everyone in the room, except for Sasuke, all gasped in chorus when they saw what happened. A whole corner of the room, where Sasuke had jumped into to protect himself from the assault of Shiro, was covered in shuriken. And each shuriken had a ninja wire tied onto it. They were, right now, forming a metal web, which the mist ninja was now trapped in. And judging on the jutsu Sasuke had just yelled the name, this web was full of high-voltage electricity just about 1 minute ago. And Sasuke's katana was now pointing at Shiro's neck. Forfeit, or I will have to hurt you. Everything was decided. Shiro's limbs slumped down on the net tying him. I forfeit. And with that, the 4th match of the preliminary was concluded. Winner. Sasuke Uchiha. You're so awesome, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke winced when the voices of Sakura and Ino slammed into his ears at the same time. The blonde glared at Sakura, but the pinkette ignored her. HMPH, Neji sneered. A lowly commoner like him does not stand a chance against a genius. That's his destiny to lose. Everyone glared at the Hyuga. Surprisingly, it was Sasuke who raised his voice first. Didn't you see what happened? I nearly lost out there. He scowled. No way. You're Sasuke-kun. How can you lose? Ino dismissed him with a swoon, and Sasuke didn't bother to answer her. Instead, he unsheathed his sword. It was full of scratches, chips and cracks. After leaving the sheath, the blade crumbled. Great, now I need a new sword, he groaned in annoyance. I don't want to interrupt but, Hinata's voice rose from behind them, you're bleeding, Sasuke-san. I think you should go to the medic. True to the words, Sasuke's right arm was having a pretty nasty cut on it. Blood was leaking out from the gaping wound. I'm fine. Sasuke shook his head. He didn't want to show weakness in front of anyone. Don't worry, I got it, Sakura suddenly said. She put her hands on Sasuke's wound, and they started glowing green. Immediately, the wound started closing. You learned medical jutsu. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, while Ino glared at Sakura's hands with extreme jealousy. Sakura smiled happily. Yup. Anko-sensei gave me a scroll of medical jutsu during my training. She didn't have any use of it, so she dumped it to me. But it's kinda fun. I learned many things in that scroll, mainly basic healing jutsu and stuff. It's useful for surviving in the forest, you know. Bookworm, Naruto muttered, and received a bop to the head. What's wrong with being a bookworm, huh? Oh, Kiba suddenly muttered in a worried voice. This is not good. What's wrong, Kiba? Naruto asked in confusion. What is not goo? Oh, crap. The screen was now showing the names of the combatants for the next match. Hinata Hyuga vs. Neji Hyuga. There are things that cannot be changed, even with time traveling. Kurama shook her head sagely. Definition. Lightning style. Shocking web. Classification. Ninjutsu, Shurikenjutsu. Rank. B. Class. Offensive. Element. Lightning. Range. Close to mid-range. A lightning-style ninjutsu developed by Sasuke Uchiha under the instruction of Kakashi Hatake. Using a combination of shuriken, kunai and ninja wires, the user might either create a web of metal strings around his enemies, or tying the enemies up with the ninja wires. After that, the user channel a large amount of lightning element chakra through the wires, shocking the enemies with high-voltage electricity. This jutsu is similar to the Uchiha clan's fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu, only replacing the fire stream with a stream of electricity. Instead of the ninja wires, the user can use this jutsu on any electricity-conducting objects, such as metal pipes, water, etc. However, as electricity is very hard to control, there might be a risk that the jutsu will hurt other people if they touch the object. This is bad. Very, very bad. Naruto looked at Kiba, whose hands were gripping the rail with such strength that it might rip the metal pipe off, and faked innocence. What's wrong, Kiba? I know Neji is powerful, but it can't be that bad, can it? You don't understand. Naruto. Kiba shook his head. His knuckle had become white from squeezing the rail too hard. I've only met that Neji guy once before, but I could literally see the hostility he had towards Hinata. And here, when we arrived at the tower, his team was here first, and it happened again. It's not normal hostility, it's killing intent. It's just like, he wanted to murder her. And now he has the chance. You're kidding, Sakura asked in disbelief. They're siblings, right? Why would Neji want to kill Hinata? Actually, they're not siblings, Kakashi explained. They are both members of the Hyuga clan, but Hinata is a member of the main house, and Neji is in the branch house. Many things have happened between the two houses for years, and they do not get along very well. But that doesn't make sense. Ino protested. Even if they have some disputes, it cannot be so bad that they want to kill each other, right? She faltered when seeing the face of the Jonin. I don't know much about this but, Lee said, in order to protect the bloodline of the Hyuga clan, the main house has established rules which clearly put the branch house into disadvantages. The branch house is always inferior, and because of that they all bear grudges on the main house. I think that's why Neji-san hates Hinata-san so much. That's right, Kurenai agreed. And I think that put Hinata in an extreme disadvantage now. She obviously doesn't want to hurt Neji, while he won't hesitate to take her down with everything he has. Everyone looked at the arena, where the two Hyuga were facing each other, with worried eyes. Before we fight, I want to say something. You will never make a good shinobi, so forfeit now before you're hurt. Neji looked at Hinata with a glare full of hatred and low Athenis. You are too kind. You always wish to avoid fighting, and you have no confidence in yourself. You are a spoiled brat of the main house, and you forced yourself to enter this exam, thinking that if you can help your team pass the exam, you can change yourself. But you will not be able to do it. People cannot change themselves. In this world, there are geniuses, and there are failures. Failures will always be failures. Their personality and strength will not change. Just like, please stop it, Neji ni-san. Neji's rant was cut off abruptly. Hinata's words were said with such a confidence and power that even Neji himself was startled. It is true I don't like fighting, and I don't want to hurt people. But that doesn't mean I cannot change myself. There is someone, he used to be the dead last, the joke of the class, the one who always got laughed at by everyone, but he has never thought of giving up. He always believes that even a failure like him can someday become better, and he never stops pushing himself to the limit. He is the one who taught me that running away will not help solving any problem. If he can change himself, there is no way I cannot. You don't get it at all. Neji shook his head. Destiny cannot be changed. You're destined to be a failure of the Hyuga clan, just like I'm to be a branch member. It cannot be changed. It can never be changed. Just like how my father died because of the main house. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped. Everyone could see Hinata cringing when the words, "my father," were said out loud. Very well, Neji said, lowering his stance. At the corner of his eyes, veins bulged up, signaling the activation of the Byakugan. If you insist, I will show you the difference between a genius and a failure. Hinata's lips trembled, but then her eyes steeled up, and she also lowered her stance, Byakugan activated. And I will show you that even destiny can be changed. Neji ni-san, let's go. And the two combatants charged. Naruto, you really did rub it off on her, didn't you? Sasuke raised an eyebrow at Naruto. Our protagonist blushed. Why do you think it's me she's talking about? Sasuke just rolled his eyes. Still, Ino said, I'm so surprised about her. Who could have known that our quiet and sweet Hinata can be this strong? She is going toe to toe with that Neji guy. True, Hinata was, right now, doing an incredible job fending off Neji's relentless assault. Even though her attacks on Neji were not very effective, the Hyuga boy also couldn't land a clean hit on her. You don't know what that girl can do, Kurenai shook her head. Since we arrived home from the mission in waves, Hinata has completely changed. She is no more the shy and cowardly girl who doesn't know anything but running. For her to become like this, it's all thanks to you, Naruto, she gave the blonde boy a smile. Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. Still, Kurenai thought, even with all the changes she has made, Hinata still has a fatal weakness. Will she be able to finish the match before Neji can figure it out? Some people might think that a fight between two people using the same fighting style is boring, as everything the combatants launch at each other will be the same, and the match will last very, very long without a clear winner. Well, it definitely isn't the case with this match. It's long, alright, but it is no way boring. Left arm, right shoulder, head, stomach, spleen, right arm, left thigh, blocked, 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 blocked. Neji was frustrated. Not only that, surprised too. He didn't expect someone like Hinata could fend off his attacks like this. Hinata, the weakest member of the Hyuga clan as far as he knows, the one who was considered the failure of the clan, was blocking all of his strikes. Not only that, she was fighting back. Worse, what she was using to fight him was not gentle fist. To be exact, it is gentle fist, but at the same time, it isn't. All the basic elements of the gentle fist were there. The all-seeing ability of the Byakugan, the application of chakra into the strikes to attack the inner organs. But the stance, the movement, they're all different. The stance of the usual gentle fist Neji, as well as all members of the Hyuga clan, uses, was firm and rigid, aiming mainly on attacking and finishing people quickly with lethal piercing strikes to the inner organs and the tenketsu. The stance Hinata was using right now, it wasn't the normal gentle fist stance. It wasn't even battle stance. Her movement was so flexible it felt like the flow of a river. It's just like, she's dancing across the rain of palms aiming at her. And somehow, it managed to deflect most of the strikes. He wanted to use the 8 trigrams, but whenever he made some distance to go into the stance, Hinata would close in immediately and effectively negated his intending attacks with her own flurry of strikes. It's just like the perfect counter to the normal gentle fist. However, it doesn't mean the style has no weakness. After another unsuccessful barrage of strikes from Neji, the two Hyuga separated, and Neji jumped back a few steps. You managed to defend against my attacks so far, he sneered. But will you be able to keep up with me any longer? Hinata was now trembling and breathing heavily. Sure, her new gentle fist stance is innovative and effective, but it is in no way perfect. It was a style Hinata and Kurenai thought of just a month ago, and all the practice she had was only in that month. There are a lot of redundant movements, and since Kurenai weren't a taijutsu specialist, she couldn't fix all of them for Hinata. Thus, when she and Neji traded blows, some of the strikes still managed to hit her, though not fatal. And, you cannot hide it from my eyes. Your stamina has reached its limit. And I have landed hits on you. With that exhausted body, how much longer can you hold it? Neji smirked while glaring at the trembling Hinata. Hinata winced. The hits of Neji, while not fatal, couldn't be said to not cause any harm. She could already feel some parts in her body becoming numb. Her chakra was not completely blocked, but its sensation was getting weaker inside her body. Not yet. I still have one more trump card left. One more time, I'll ask you, Hinata-sama, Neji said again with the same threatening tone. Forfeit now, or I won't take any responsibility for what's going to happen. No, Hinata choked out between heavy breaths. If I give up now, then all I said before will be meaningless. I won't go back on my words, because that is also my ninja way. Neji scowled. You stubborn, you can barely stand, I can see that. No matter how hard you trained, you can never defeat me. People cannot change. That's destiny. Why pushing yourself like that, to make yourself suffer? I'm not suffering. Neji's eyes narrowed. What? It is not me. Who's suffering right now? Hinata repeated weakly. Neji ni-san, you are the one who is always torturing yourself within the destiny of the branch house. I don't want to see you like that. I want to save you from that fate, so. Veins bulged up even more around Neji's eyes, and his face suddenly twisted into an expression of fury. Without another word, he charged at Hinata full speed, his hand aimed directly at her heart. This is it. This is the time. Gentle step protection. What? In front of him, Hinata's arms started moving. Not lashing out at him to attack. Not moving aside to swat away his strikes. No, she was waving her arms wildly around her body. What the hell? Neji's instinct was screaming at him to stop the charge, but he was too close to Hinata now, he couldn't stop. 8 trigrams. 32 palms. And Neji felt himself slammed into an invisible wall of force in front of him. Pain racked through his body. He was thrown away a few feet, his body crashed into the ground with a loud thud. What is that technique? It is not. Gentle fist, he grunted out in pain, while trying to push himself up from the ground. It is, gentle fist, Neji ni-san, answered Hinata, who was now standing over him. She was still breathing heavily, but she was not trembling anymore. But, this is what I created, based on the 8 trigrams. It is not a technique created to harm people, it is a technique created to protect, she added between breaths. I created it, not only to protect my friends, but also to save you from the darkness of vengeance. She reached out one of her hand to him with a slight smile. This match is over. Please forfeit. I don't want to hurt you anymore. For the first time in his life, Neji Hyuga, the genius of the Hyuga clan, was made sprawling on the ground, defeated by Hinata Hyuga, the failure of the clan, no less. And she was showing him pity. And what will you do if I don't? He snarled darkly. His voice was very small, to the level of a whisper which no one could hear, but enough for Hinata, who was the one standing closest to him, to be able to hear every word. Kill me, just like you already did to my father. Those words of Neji had an effect of a hammer strike. Hinata did a double take. Her hand reaching out was retracted abruptly. She stumbled back a few steps and stammered, her eyes glancing around hysterically. No, that's not true, I didn't. The opening she let out was exactly what Neji needed. Hinata-chan. Watch out. Naruto's yell snapped Hinata out of her stupor, but it was too late. Neji's 2 palms already drilled into her stomach. The poor girl gasped out. Pain racked through her liver, as if there were thousands of needles stabbed into it at the same time. Or more exactly, like a drill pierced without any hesitation into them. But Neji didn't even have the intention to stop. Jabs after jabs were launched at where the vital organs of her body lied, each of which was packed with enough power to destroy said organs. That was not the 8 trigrams. The techniques were invented with the purpose of disabling the enemy. What Neji was doing right now was just brutal, mindless jabs launched in vengeance with the aim of murdering. Hinata screamed and stumbled back. Her body felt like it was shattering, everything she could feel was pain. Blood spewed out from her mouth. She was going to die. The last jab was launched at where Hinata's heart was. It was too fast, and she couldn't even move her body to dodge it. Then Neji's hand stopped abruptly right before it touched Hinata's chest. More exactly, it was stopped. All the Jonin had jumped down and grabbed Neji before the final strike could land on Hinata. Kakashi was holding his stretching arm. Asuma was grasping his neck in a rear choke. Kurenai was crouching on the ground, holding his other arm back. And Guy was standing in front of him, gripping his wrist with one hand. His face was full of disappointment and disbelief. Special treatment for the main house again, Neji scowled in disdain and disappointment. Guy glared at him with a stern eye. That's enough, Neji. Didn't I tell you not to lose your head over this matter? Neji snorted, but he didn't say anything else. He turned to Hayate, who was standing at the side dumbfounded. So what now, referee? Declare the winner already. She cannot even stand up now. The Chunin shook his head to snap his brain out of its stupor. Right. Winner Neji Hyuga. On the ground, Hinata puked out another puddle of blood. Medic. By Kami. Come here fast. Kurenai screamed, and 3 medical ninja flickered into the arena. One of them put his glowing hand on Hinata's body, scanning it quickly until stopping at her stomach. Then he lifted his head up and yelled to his partners. Left lung was punctured. Half of the liver was crushed and unable to work properly. Internal bleeding at extreme level. The patient is losing consciousness. Prepare the emergency procedures immediately. Everyone, except Neji, paled. Even without medical knowledge, they could know that with such fatal injuries, a normal person would have died in 5 minutes. The fact that Hinata could hold out until now was a miracle. But even with that miracle, she would not last much longer. Damn it. It's not working. Her heartbeat is going erratic. Her life force is fading away. Naruto's brain froze. Hinata was going to die. Again, and he's here, once again, helpless. I can help, Oni-chan. The voice of Saikyo inside his head startled him. Huh, Saikyo-chan. How? Then he remembered. Saikyo has the power over life energy. If he can use her power on Hinata, she might be saved. But with the mind state of Saikyo right now, will it be able to work? No, there is no time to doubt. This is the time. He has to trust with all his hope in his instinct, and in Saikyo-chan. Excuse me. Let me go through. Naruto immediately forced his way through the group of medic nin. One of them noticed him and yelled. This is not the time, Genin. You got no job over here. But the man faltered when Kakashi's hand suddenly squeezed his shoulder, more forcefully than he'd ever felt before. He gulped, and allowed the boy to go through. Naruto sighed in relief, and pushed through the crowd, putting his hands on Hinata's chest. A warm, lively stream of chakra started flowing from Naruto's hand into Hinata's body. But instead of vivid red, it's green now like a normal medical jutsu, albeit with a very slight tint of brown. Hinata's body cringed up slightly, but then quickly relaxed. Her breathing started returning to normal, and her complexion slowly got its color back. Incredible, another of the medic team muttered. Her condition was stabilized. It's just like a miracle. That level of medical jutsu, it might rival even Tsunade-sama. Just what kind of genin is Kakashi training? Yeah, the medic corps of Konohagakure are full of idiots. They cannot even distinguish a normal medical jutsu for something completely different. Tsunade would have thrown a fit if she'd seen what happened to the division she had established and trained by herself after she'd left the village. It's Naruto's luck, though. Well, what are you waiting for? Kakashi said loudly. That girl is still in a critical condition. Take her for intensive care unless you want her to die. Ah, right. Realizing their mistake, the medic team hastily put Hinata on a stretcher and took her away. After everyone had returned to their places, Kakashi whispered to Naruto. Close shave, Naruto. Yeah, Naruto murmured back. Thank you Kakashi-sensei. And thank you too, Saikyo-chan. You're the best. Naruto couldn't see it, but he could swear that he felt something on Saikyo's face that he'd never seen before. A big, hearty smile. Now Naruto is a medic now. Kiba raised an eyebrow. When did you learn them, Naruto? If Sakura becomes one, it's understandable, but you? Well, it's a secret. Naruto answered, while giving his teammates a meaningful wink. The two immediately understood what he wanted to say, and stopped their questioning right before it came out of their mouths. Still, Sakura said, I can't believe they still let Neji win. That last move was low. Hinata didn't even have the intention to fight him anymore. Kakashi shook his head. Sakura, I understand what you want to say, but Neji was still the winner. He didn't break any rule. What he did was just what normal shinobi would do, exploiting the enemy's weakness to win. That's the thing you'll always see in the shinobi world. Naruto couldn't hold his anger. So Hinata-chan deserves to be like that. Kakashi didn't lose his calmness. He looked into Naruto's eyes and answered him with a serious tone. I didn't say that, and you will never hear me saying that, Naruto. It is just a warning for you, and I mean all of you. You can be as high-minded as you like, but your enemies will not. On the battlefield, they will do anything they can to kill you at all cost. So if you naively believe that your enemy will stop fighting after you spare his life, he will stab you in the back right after you turn around. Before anyone could respond to this ominous pronouncement, the screen had already flashed again, revealing the name of the next fighters. Haku Momochi vs. Choji Akamichi. Expansion Jutsu. Human Bullet Tank. Choji puffed himself up, retracted into his body, and rolled towards Haku like a boulder. His moving speed was quite fast. Haku sidestepped his attack, then made quick hand signs. Immediately, the ground was frozen, as if the arena had become an ice skating field. Coincidentally, that also boosted the speed of the human boulder on the field further, making it even more deadly. I don't get it, sensei, Chojuro asked, confused. Why does Haku-san decide to empower her opponent like that? Doesn't increasing the speed of that jutsu make it even more dangerous? Well, actually, Zabuza chuckled, everything has its strength and weakness. This jutsu of the Akamichi boy has power and speed, I admit, but I think the problem with it is. The human tank rampaged towards Haku again in the speed of a cannonball. Haku frantically scrambled away from the way of the rampaging ball of meat right before it flattened her. The ball spun around, turning to chase after the girl, and flew across the room, slamming into the opposite wall, drilling a rather big hole on it while still spinning. He cannot break and turn while rolling on slippery surfaces. Yeah, like that, Zabuza finished. Immediately, ice started creeping up the huge body, covering it in a cage of frozen water. 5 minutes later, Choji was released from his icicle prison. He collapsed on the ground, shrunk back to normal size, and shivered non-stop on the ground. His face was pale due to the cold, and his eyes had become two anime swirls. C-CC cold, BBBB barbecue. Even during battle, the only thing he's ever thought about is barbecue, Asuma sighed. Well, I'd better just go and prepare the money first. Winner. Haku Momochi. Temari vs. Shino Aburame. The two combatants stood facing each other in the arena, their eyes meeting. Well, only Temari's met Shino's, considering he's wearing a really thick and dark pair of sunglasses. Finally, Shino decided to start his own assault with a wave of bugs towards Temari. Temari answered by swinging her fan, sending a tornado back at the Aburame boy. All the bugs Shino sent out were eradicated. Not blown away though, they were all cut to shred by the sharpened chakra of the wind scythe jutsu. I've known all about you Aburame, the Sand Kunoichi said in a haughty voice. You fight using the colony of bugs implanted into your body since birth. You can use a variety of jutsu with them, such as draining your opponent's chakra, or poisoning them. So if I want to defeat you, I just need to keep those bugs away from me. Then she swung her fan again at her back, destroying the hidden wave of bugs Shino sent silently to ambush her from behind. Well, that's that. How much longer will you be able to keep up with me, Aburame? Shino grimaced under his collar. Half of his hive was destroyed in the two first attacks without any result. And if he continued to send out bugs, the Sunagaku Kunoichi would just destroy them with her fan and wind jutsu. It's not like he could send them out without being seen again anyway. That girl had been tracking down all his movement after the first attack. I forfeit. It's not worth risking the lives of my entire hive for this. Kiba blinked. That's it. He just gives up like that. That is not even fighting. Kurenai shook her head. Well, that girl is, like, his natural enemy. Shino has nothing in his arsenal against something like that. And he is the one who uses his head in battle, not rushing into it head first like you, Kiba. The Inuzuka scowled unhappily. Winner. Temari. Konkuro vs. Tenten. Twin Rising Dragon. The 6 arms of Karasu, Konkuro's puppet, turned into 6 large shields, blocking the barrage of weapons from skewering the sand puppeteer. Ha! Now you're out of weapon. You lost now. Konkuro smirked when the weapon tornado had finally died down. But he didn't notice the evil glint in Tenten's eyes. With a quick movement, she lifted her arms and pulled hard. Ninja wires suddenly surrounded Konkuro in a steel labyrinth, tying the puppeteer up like a rat. Worse, the weapons from before were now aiming straight at him from all directions. Including scythes, axes, and even huge bombs. Where the hell did those last things come from, though? So Konkuro-san, this time, the smirk was on the weapon mistress's face. Do you have enough shields? Konkuro wisely forfeited before those weapons turned him into a steel porcupine, or a mess of flesh and bones. Naruto, you're not gonna like this. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Sasuke's worried. Now that's new. What's wrong, Sasuke? To answer him, the Uchiha pointed at the screen. Naruto followed his finger, and his blood froze. Karen Uzumaki vs. Gaara. That's what the screen said. Uzumaki. So she's like, you know, your sibling or something like that, right? Sakura asked, but Naruto didn't answer. Or rather, he couldn't answer with the feeling of something big and hard stuck inside his throat. So that girl really is an Uzumaki. Just like him, Nagato, and his mother. That means, she is family. A true family. The family Naruto has never had in his life. Naruto's heart wanted to jump out of his chest when he thought about this. He can finally have a real family. But the problem is, she was going to face Gaara. And not Gaara the 5th Kazekage, but Gaara the crazy Jinchuriki, mass murderer, terror of Sunagaku, etc. etc. What is he gonna do? Tell Gigi to stop the match. Don't be a fool, Naruto. Doing that is no different from exposing yourself for the whole world to know. Then what should I do? The last time, Gaara nearly destroyed Lee's shinobi career. What if? A disturbing thought passed Naruto's brain. What if this time there is no one saving her? Then you go and save her. Duh, Goku said as if it was a fact. That was the best way to get another girl into your harem. The big sis route is always the hottest route. Wah. Hey, what's with the claws and tentacles? Yeah. Naruto. Help. Naruto sighed mentally. Girls, thank you for shutting the pervert up. You're welcome, Naru-kun. Traitor. Don't worry, Naruto, Gyuki said. If things start going wrong, we'll always be here to help you. For now, just calm down and focus on the match. Yeah. Despite saying so, a vague fear was still lingering inside Naruto's stomach. What will happen if he fails? Karen was trembling. To tell the truth, she hadn't got the intention to take part in this exam. This team she had right now, well, people might call it a team, but to tell the truth, she hated it. She was basically forced into it by Orochimaru. For what reason? She couldn't even know. And then the blonde brat of Konohagakure was called Uzumaki by the scarred proctor of the first task. Thinking about this made Karen boiled with anger. Karen didn't have many things to be proud of. She had lost everything since she was a child, and she couldn't remember much about them. One of the only things she still remembered and put all her pride on was her status as a member of the famous Uzumaki clan. Because of that, she was taken in by Orochimaru when she was just a little girl. The snake Sanin had seen what nobody else saw in her. He saw usefulness. He saw potential. He saw value. He saw her as things different from a breeding mare, a healing tank. And it's all thanks to her heritage that she got all those treatments. And now that blonde bastard popped out from nowhere saying that he's an Uzumaki. The nerve of him. He doesn't even have the red hair. Because of that, she pushed herself through the exam, even though she hadn't wanted to participate in the first place. She wanted to show that bastard who dared to spoil the name of the Uzumaki clan that, even though the clan had perished, no one would be able to mess with them. Everything was good until this happened. Karen does not scare of fighting. The truth is, she is quite a competent fighter. She can hold her own against enemies for quite some times without injuries, thanks to her potent healing chakra. Her Kagura Shingen is perfect for detecting any kind of hidden adversaries. And she has some good jutsu in her arsenal, too. She just didn't expect to run into the kind of enemy she was facing right now. She didn't even need the Kagura Shingen to know how dangerous the boy in front of her was. Despite his calm demeanor, she could feel power pouring out from his body. It's powerful. It's cold. It's mad. Even looking at him made her hands sweating. And though it was fainted, there was an odor of blood lingering around him. Having been working for Orochimaru for a long time, Karen was too familiar with that smell. Karen gulped. Thoughts of raising her hand and forfeit had crossed her mind. Then she caught a glimpse of the blonde boy who claimed to be an Uzumaki, and rage exploded again in her chest like a volcano. He was looking at her with an eye full of pity and weariness. How dare he? How dare he show pity on her, a real Uzumaki, while going around parading the Uzumaki name like a third-rate good. That's it. No running away. She'll show that bastard what a real Uzumaki can do. Begin. Karen immediately pulled out a kunai from her pouch and threw it at Gaara. Then, she withdrew her hands and went through hand signs. Kunai shadow clone. The lone knife became 20, and all of them soared across the room, aiming at the sand genin. A wall of sand immediately rose in front of him, preventing the kunai from reaching Gaara's body. Then all the knives exploded at the same time. The original kunai had explosive tags stuck on it. Whoa, what the hell? Kiba exclaimed when the shockwave from the explosion reached his face, making his unkempt hair flying wildly. This is just overkill. Why do all those with the name Uzumaki like going around blowing stuff up like that? Sakura also groaned. HMPH, Temari snorted with a smirk. You think that kind of attack would be able to harm Gaara? Think again. It's true. When the smoke of the explosion cleared, Gaara was still standing there unharmed. A thick wall of sand was in front of him, shielding him from all the damage which would have killed him if they hit. This match is decided. There is no way that girl would land a hit on Gaara. His absolute defense has never been broken. Is that all you got? The ominous voice of Gaara echoed through the air. Then it's my turn now. Giant hands made of sand burst out from the ground, all shooting towards Karen like torpedoes launching from a submarine. Screw sand crushing power. Those hands would have been able to smash her to a pulp, or at least break half the bones inside her body with their sheer force and weight if they had hit. Luckily for Karen, although her Kagura Shingen cannot see things in slow motion like the Sharingan, or pierce through the skin to see inside the body like the Byakugan, it shows her clearly where chakra exists. And all the sand on the ground was infused with Gaara's chakra. Because of that, she was able to make the smart choice and retreated as quickly as she could to the other end of the room, on the finger of the shinobi statue, away from the range of the sand appendages before they could crush her. Karen knew she was screwed. Sure, she managed to avoid those deadly attacks, but she knew for sure that she was overpowered. The chakra in the sand was so strong it couldn't be of a normal genin. No, it couldn't even be of a human. Orochimaru didn't tell her that there would be this kind of genin in this exam. What did she get herself into? Her instinct screamed at her to forfeit the match. And she had already been raising her hand. Yet, something in her mind stopped her from opening her mouth. Yeah, damn that stupid pride about clan. She's just as bad as a certain Uchiha of a few months ago. This last attempt would probably exhaust her, but if she could execute it perfectly. It's alright. I have enough chakra to maneuver through this, I can defeat him. She reached into her pouch, and pulled out 2 round things the size of big oranges. Then, much to everyone's surprise, Karen charged headfirst at Gaara. Fool. Waves of sand rushed towards her once again. But this time Karen had prepared. Shadow Clone Jutsu. One clone popped into existence, and the real Karen stepped on her back then, with a chakra-boosted jump, leapt into the air before the sand waves swept through and obliterated it. Hey Naruto, she fights just like you. Karen had wanted to turn to throw a fit at the one who had just said that, but this was not the time. Sticking on the ceiling of the arena, She pulled out 5 other explosive kunai from her pouch and threw them all at Gaara. And just like before, the Jinchuriki's sand blocked the explosion easily as if it was child's toy. That girl is a fool, Temari said. Struggling like that only makes Gaara madder. She should have forfeited when she had a chance. Mother is craving for blood. From under the cloud of smoke, the voice of Gaara rose ominously. You will become the sacrifice for my existence. Everyone gasped when tendrils of sand blasted out from Gaara's place and skewered the redhead in a blink of an eye. No, Naruto muttered in horror. Then the body burst into water, soaking Gaara's sand to the core. I see, the Cyclops Jonin in the balcony nodded in amusement. Sand cannot move when soaked with water. A clever use of the water clone, I admit. That girl is good. You mean, those bottles she pulled out before, they're water bottles. Yup. Canteens engraved with seals to increase their capacity are common things to shinobi, but to have enough water to form a water clone of that scale in such a small container is an incredible feat. From behind Gaara, the real Karen appeared and closed their distance quickly, a whole pack of exploding tags ready on her hand. Gaara's sand was still wet on the floor. They couldn't rise fast enough to block the advancing girl who was now very close to the sand shinobi. For the first time since the match started, Gaara's eyes widened. Everyone take cover. Boom. A direct hit. An explosion much more powerful than the ones before shook the whole arena. Karen was thrown away like a ragdoll by the recoil. Her body slammed hard onto the ground, full of burning marks, and she felt a piercing pain on her right arm. It seemed the impact had broken it. But no matter, that last blow was a decisive hit. Her body could be mended easily with a bite, but there was no way her opponent could survive that point-blank explosion. Then suddenly, her head jerked up in surprise and fear. The incredible chakra signal of her enemy didn't fade away. Rather, it was becoming even more powerful. When the smoke cleared enough for her to see Gaara, her fear was multiplied tenfold. Her enemy was still standing. Her life-risking maneuver didn't even manage to hurt him. The only thing showing some kind of damage on him was his skin, which was now falling off his body, his arms, his legs, his face. Which was now donning a completely crazy expression. No way. Sand, skin. Karen knew everything was over for her. That last maneuver took away everything she had. She was now out of both weapon and chakra. And her body was injured. She was completely outmatched. There was no way she could continue the match any further. I forf. Gah. Karen couldn't even finish her sentence. Hell, she couldn't even breathe properly anymore. Sand had already crept up her body, locking her inside like a cage, and was now squeezing around her windpipe. Ah, the last bits of oxygen were leaving her lungs. She's such a fool. Charging headfirst into this hopeless battle without thinking of the consequences. Now she was going to die, crushed by the mad boy and his sand. Stop right there, Gaara of the sand. If you don't, you will be disqualified immediately. She heard the voice of the proctor, but it was no use. The sand coffin around her was squeezing even harder, and she could feel her consciousness slipping away together with the pain in her body. That was it. She was definitely leaving the living world, and now she was on her way to hell, or heaven. Then she had a very vague feeling of the sand releasing her. But it was too late. Everything around her had gone dark. Everyone was stunned beyond belief. Not only because a girl like Karen had managed to hold her own against someone like Gaara for quite some time. Also not only because Gaara was a mindless murderer who was more than ready to squish a girl, a 12-year-old girl, shinobi or not, to mush. It was also because Naruto had sent Gaara flying with a punch. What the hell is that? Konkuro muttered in shock. He punched Gaara. Through the sand shield, no less. Screw that. Temari also mumbled, but with a frightened tone. Gaara was denied a kill. He is going to go crazy now. Right as she said, Gaara stumbled up from the ground. The terrifying chakra of Shukaku was pouring out of his body like a waterfall, together with the massive killing intent which was making every genin in the room shudder and gasp for air. Uzumaki. He growled in a dangerous tone. To answer, Naruto flared up his own chakra. His chakra, strong as it originally was built up even further during his training, and now rivaled the Hokage himself at least. The two powerful waves of chakra clashed against each other, unconsciously heating the air in the room up to near dangerous level. That's enough, the two of you. Naruto almost jumped when the calm, yet stern voice of the third Hokage rose up right next to him. He had been at the two Genins' sides since who knew when, and his eyes were now locking at their faces with a sharp glare. I declare this match over, and the winner is Gaara, the old man said briefly. Now stop that killing intent and go back to the balcony. The voice of the Hokage was not loud, but it contained such a powerful authority that even Gaara had to stop. The Sand Jinchuriki recalled his sand back into the gourd and walked back to his team's place without another word, but not before throwing Naruto a deadly glare. Naruto refused to drop his gaze, but met the glare with his own until Gaara looked away. Ahem. Anyway, Hayate cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. Due to the odd number of competitors here, the last match of the preliminary will be a battle royale between the three remaining competitors. So will Kiba Inuzuka of Konohagakure, Chojuro of Kurigakure and Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure come down here? Naruto blinked dumbly. What is a battle royale? Hayate sighed. Just think of it as a free-for-all fight between more than two fighters. Now that all of you are here, he added when seeing Kiba and Chojuro jumping down from the balcony, can we start the match now? You bet, Naruto answered with a grin. Same here, Kiba also smirked. Chojuro didn't say anything, only nodded timidly. Then, the final match of the preliminary, Kiba Inuzuka vs. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Chojuro. Begin. Kiba glanced at Naruto warily. Since the mission to Waves, he had seen Naruto with another eye. The blonde was no longer the goofy dead last of the class who knew only silly pranks. Right now, he might be the most dangerous genin in this room, not considering that Gaara guy. He pulled out a soldier pill. He must finish him first, and fast. Akamaru. Get ready. Man-beast transfer. Haramakare release. Gigant form. Wah. Oh, crap. A gigantochammer made of chakra was swung down mercilessly on the two Konoha genins' heads. And by gigantic, I mean gigantic. In bold. And caps. Had it not been for the fact that construct made solely from chakra couldn't create shadows, its head would have covered the whole arena in darkness. There's absolutely no way to dodge this. Not in this closed arena. Earth style. Concrete barricade. Naruto's voice suddenly boomed. From the ground, walls made of a very hard substance erected and formed 7 layers of dome around him, Kiba and Akamaru. The layered barriers managed to surround the two boys and dog completely right before the mighty hammer descended down their heads. And the weapon collided with the dome instead. The first, second, third and fourth layers of the dome were shattered as if they're made of tissue paper. The fifth and sixth ones managed to slow down the bludgeon weapon, but the hammer still smashed through them before stopping at the final layer, where the chakra forming it finally dissipated. Well, not before making that very same layer crumble to debris, though. Wah, what the hell is that? Is he trying to kill us? Kiba stuttered. His eyes were as wide as 2 small dishes. He broke through my strongest defense jutsu so easily, Naruto also grimaced. Then, much to the two Konoha genins' surprise, Chojuro fell over. Still not enough chakra, the glassed boy mumbled, and fainted. On the balcony, Zabuza smashed his head on the rail. Phew. Kiba wiped his forehead. That was close. Yeah, sweet dream, Kiba. Huh. Wah. Kiba couldn't even manage to blurt out the whole sentence before Naruto sucker punched him in the face. Kurenai's palm met her face. How many times have I told him not to let his guard down in front of his opponent? Winner. Naruto Uzumaki. Akamaru whined. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the genin standing here right now for advancing to the third task, also the final round, and the main event of the Chunin exam. The voice of the third Hokage echoed across the room, loud and firm. I can see some of you had quite easy matches during the preliminary. Some of you, on the other hand, had some troubles with your opponents. But you all managed to defeat yours, and gained the right to compete in the final round. Sarutobi's eyes lingered a little bit at Sasuke and Gaara's faces, then he continued. However, it will not be that easy anymore. Coming to this round, you are all considered the elite of your villages. Each of you will fight to represent the power of your countries, and you will need to show off all your power without reserves. Therefore, there will be no easy matches for you in the third event of the exam. And because of that, the third event will be held precisely 1 month later. It is for you to revitalize your bodies and minds, and analyze the data you collected about your opponents to calculate your chance of winning, as well as to improve your abilities. Wait a sec. Sasuke raised his hand. Considering what you just said, could it be that the third event is also a tournament? The Hokage chuckled. Very perceptive, Sasuke. True. The final round is also a tournament. The final tournament will be held in the main stadium of Konohagakure, in the middle of the village, under the audience of all citizens in the village, the daimyos, and the other village leaders. Now it's Shikamaru's turn to raise his hand. But since it's a tournament, it would mean there's only one winner, right? Does that mean there will only be one person who becomes Chunin? That's not it. Sarutobi shook his head. Your battles will be observed by the judges, including me, the daimyos, and the other village leaders. Those judges will be the ones who decide if you can become a Chunin or not. Therefore, even if you lose your first match, you will still have a chance to become Chunin. Now, before dismiss, there is something that has to be done. Anko stepped up from behind the Hokage. Each of you will take a piece of paper from inside the box I'm holding here. Then, read the number inside of the paper out loud for everyone to hear. Match arrangement, right? Sakura asked. Anko grinned. As expected of my apprentice. So, start from you, Cherry. Sakura pulled out a piece of paper. 3, 7. Naruto said his number after pulling it out from the box. 2. It was Sasuke. 1. Haku. 5. Temari. 4. Neji. I got 9. Lee. 10. Tenten. 8. Gaara. 6. So troublesome, Shikamaru. Done. Anko said happily, throwing the box away. So these will be the matches in the final round. Haku Momochi vs. Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura Haruno vs. Neji Hyuga. Temari vs. Shikamaru Nara. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Gaara. Rock Lee vs. Tenten. So, our chance for a rematch is here. Sasuke glanced at Haku. This time it will not be like the last time. I'm waiting for that day. Haku gave him a mock smile and curtsied. Yosh. Tenten-san, let's give everyone a match full of youth. Lee howled dramatically. I'd rather not, Tenten sighed. Great, my opponent is another violent woman, this is so troublesome, Shikamaru groaned, and a vein popped on Temari's forehead. What do you mean, you lazy idiot? Well, if that's all, then you're okay to dismiss. Anko called out cheerfully, then popped away in a body flicker. All the other Jonin and Anbu also disappeared. When everyone started walking out of the arena, Sakura gritted her teeth. That Neji. He didn't even bother to look at my face. Who does he think he is? The Pinkett suddenly cringed when she felt a hand patting her shoulder. She turned back, and saw Naruto looking at her. His eyes were full of warmth and encouragement. But at the same time, those sapphire orbs were also filled with seriousness. Don't worry, Sakura, he whispered. If this was 3 months ago I wouldn't be sure, but now I'm confident that you can defeat Neji for sure. Don't worry, you can beat him up in the final round. Those words didn't get past Neji's ears. The Hyuga boy turned back and sneered at Naruto. Hey loser, if you want to be a powerful shinobi, what you have to do is stop those meaningless cheering. Putting hopes into the head of someone without any chance will only bring them closer to their death. You just let him be, Sakura. This time, it was Sasuke who spoke up. His voice had a tint of amusement. Even if you lose, it's okay. I'll have a chance to show him what kind of pathetic genius he is when he falls under my hand. Neji narrowed his eyes, but then he turned away and walked out. So, how are we going to get out of this forest? Karen opened her eyes groggily. Ow, my head. She was lying on a bed in a white room. This must be the hospital. She couldn't know how long she had been here. Maybe a few hours, or 1 day, 2 days, who knows? The only thing she could remember was that she was being squeezed by the sand of the Suna boy. She winced. That experience was something she never wanted to enjoy another time. That boy, whatever he was, couldn't be, impossible to be, human. He enjoyed killing. That kind of bloodlust, she had only seen that kind of bloodlust in one person only before. And that person was Orochimaru. And everyone knows what kind of inhumane creature Orochimaru is. Yeah, even Karen. Her ribs throbbed with pain again. Hello, Karen-chan. Karen almost jumped from her bed when the face of a blonde with sapphire eyes hovered right in front of hers. Wahafahaha. Pervert. Slap. Ow. What the hell? Is that what you will do to pay back the one who saved your life? Naruto stumbled back and yelled, his hand rubbing the hand-shaped red print on his cheek. Karen's eyes widened. You're the fake bastard who goes around calling himself an Uzumaki. What? Naruto barked in outrage. How dare you? I'm as Uzumaki as you are. Bullshit. What kind of Uzumaki has blonde hair? Karen grabbed Naruto's shirt and also screamed, even louder than Naruto. Well, sorry for only having my mother as an Uzumaki. Why you? If the two of you continue screaming like two banshees, I'll throw both of you out of the hospital immediately, get it? Someone from outside screamed into the room. Karen released Naruto, but still glared at him with a scary look. I won't believe it. Finally, the redhead glowered. There is no way you are an Uzumaki. Even if it's only your mother, the only Uzumaki staying in Konohagakure during the last 20 years is Kushina-sama, and she was dead 12 years ago. Naruto's eyes hardened, and he turned away. I never said my parents were alive. Karen unconsciously clapped her hands over her mouth. If that's the truth, and the blonde's parents were both dead. Wait, so your mother is Kushina-sama? The red hot-blooded habanero. The one who's said to have wreaked havoc together with the fourth Hokage during the Third Shinobi World War. Karen's eyes bulged out in realization. No way. How can someone as famous as her be the mother of an idiot like you? You're definitely lying. Hey, why do you keep saying that I am an idiot? And I'm not lying. Naruto protested. Suddenly, another voice rose from the room's entrance. You might not believe it, but it is the truth. And I'd rather you keep it to yourself, because it is a high-leveled secret of Konohagakure. Naruto snapped his head towards the entrance, and sighed in relief when he saw Jiraiya leaning at the door frame. Knew that I can find you here, Naruto, the Toad Sage grinned. Karen sat there, dumbfounded. This man was Jiraiya of the Sannin, one of the most powerful and famous shinobi in the whole elemental continent. If he was the one who confirmed this, then maybe the blonde didn't lie at all, but now, family matters aside, suddenly, Jiraiya appeared right in front of Karen, so fast she couldn't even blink. I want to ask you a question. Are you working for Orochimaru? Karen's body cringed up slightly. How could the man in front of her know about that? I don't know what you're talking about, she lied coldly, diverting her gaze from the sage. But Jiraiya wasn't someone who was easy to trick. Don't lie to me, little Kunoichi. I've worked with Orochimaru for a long time. I can sense his presence on your body, even when he's not here. Your body reeks of his chakra and his smell. Besides, you think I don't know Kusagakure as Orochimaru's in anything but name. Konohagakure's spy network is not something you can underestimate. Sweat started to roll down Karen's forehead. If Konohagakure had figured it out. Considering your reaction, I can assume that we're right. Usually, this isn't my job, Jiraiya continued in a dangerous tone, but because you are a relative of Naruto, I'm giving you another chance. What is your connection with Orochimaru? Spill it out, or a long-term trip to the T&I division will be your present. Karen nearly choked when she felt the massive killing intent from Jiraiya. Pervy sage, please, said Naruto in a scared and concerned voice. Let me talk to her first. The killing intent withdrew, but Jiraiya was still glaring at the redhead. Karen-chan. Naruto turned back to the girl. Orochimaru is a dangerous person. If we don't stop him, there will be a lot of innocent people who will be dead because of him. Can you please? Please what? Karen cut him short with a sneer. Even if what you said is true, are you expecting me to betray him like that? You're too naive, thinking that those petty talks can convince me to sell him out. I bet all those Uzumaki things were also fabricated by you to trick me. Just throw me to your T&I, or whatever you call it. You're not scaring me. If she's not a girl, the author would say that she got balls. I can't understand Karen-chan, Naruto cut in again. Why are you so loyal to that Orochimaru guy? He is so evil. He tried to steal my teammate's body when we're in the forest of death. Why do you love someone so inhumane that much? HMPH. Karen snorted and turned away. Why should I tell you? Could it be, you were somehow rescued by him before? Karen's neck froze on its way. How could that boy know? Naruto grimaced. It was true. Karen was just like Haku before the battle at the bridge. Karen-chan, one of my best friends has the same past as you. But she's luckier than you. The man who saved her is definitely not a very good guy, but he still knows what it means to care for people close to him. Did Orochimaru ever do that to you? I don't think so. Even only meeting him once, I can say that. Someone who only wants others for their bodies cannot understand anything about friendship, families or love. Karen wanted to retort, but she realized that she couldn't. What the blonde boy said was true. Orochimaru said that she was useful, but never before had he shown anything that she was anything more than a tool that could be thrown away easily when her usefulness was exhausted. She had thought that it was okay, as long as she could serve him with everything she had. But now, Orochimaru had lied to her when he said that the Uzumaki clan was extinct. Worse, he didn't even tell her that the exam had these kinds of insane genin. Surely he would have known it, his plan with Sunagaku and Kusagaku. Isn't that the proof that Orochimaru didn't consider her anything that might be important to him? And it didn't matter if she was dead or not. Oh, and about whether Naruto here is an Uzumaki or not, I took a sample of your hair and conducted a DNA analysis when you were asleep, and this is the result. Jiraiya pulled out a sheet of paper and gave it to the redhead. She took it without any question, and her eyes widened when she saw the result. This is. That's right. You two are not only of the same clan, but very close relatives also. It's not exaggeration to say that you two are family. Even Naruto was dumbfounded before this new piece of information. Is that true? Karen-chan, is really my family. Karen's head felt like spinning. She had a family. Could it really? Everything in this was too good to be true, but the proof was still there, right in front of her. That's awesome. Naruto suddenly exclaimed, his face brightened. That means you can come to Konoha and live with me, Karen-chan. We can finally have the family we've never had before. Karen, said Jiraiya calmly. It might be true that Orochimaru is the one who saved you and gave you a home to live all those years, but that doesn't mean he is a good person. I was his teammate during the time he was in Konoha. I know what he is. He does not care for anyone except himself, and will do anything, even stepping over his closest people as if they're insects, to achieve what he wants. If you really are working for Orochimaru, you must have understood what kind of things he does to his own subordinates. He is evil, a monster in fact. If you stay with him, not only you're helping him harming more innocent people, but he will also throw you away when you outlives your usefulness to him. Do you really want to live with someone like that forever? Karen couldn't find any word to retort. If you agree to help us, Konohagakure can also help you, Jiraiya continued. We can offer you complete safety within the village, and you can even join our shinobi force if you want, after a probation period. And, the white-haired man lowered his voice, we can also give you a family, a real family. What do you think? Finally, when she managed to open her mouth, she said. I need time to think about it. Please leave me alone. Karen-chan. Please. She snapped, and Naruto flinched, knowing there wasn't anything else he could do for now. Jiraiya grabbed his shoulder, and the two males stood up and walked out of the room. Please think of it clearly, okay Karen-chan. Before disappearing behind the door, the blonde boy still turned back and pleaded. When the pair was gone, Karen silently activated her Kagura Shingen. She had expected guards outside of the room, but to her surprises, there was no one out there. She could have run away any time. But instead of doing that, for some reasons, she flopped back to the bed, and stared at the ceiling. The two had struck her weakest point. It was true that, even in Orochimaru's care, Karen was not evil at heart. The greatest wish of her was a real family, a family with people like her, not with those monstrosities Orochimaru called his subordinates. The two hadn't left any guard outside the room, that meant they trusted her. But, can she just throw everything away and betray Orochimaru, the one who used to save her life, like that? What should I do? Hiya! Sakura's fist struck the training post with a force so great the post shook ominously, and a bit of wood dust flew from the point where she hit. She stumbled back, panting heavily. Although her stamina and muscle power had taken a huge leap comparing to what she'd had a few months ago, it still couldn't even compare to Naruto's ridiculous stamina, or at least Sasuke-kun's. Don't force yourself too hard, Sakura. Take a rest first. Sakura turned back, and saw Kakashi walking towards her, with Anko next to him, grinning towards her. Sensei. She breathed out and slumped on the ground. I thought you're training Sasuke-kun. Well, he's done for today. Besides, Sasuke isn't my only student, right? I told you I would train all of you for the final match separately after all, Kakashi answered her with an eye smile. Sakura sighed. Sensei. I don't think I can do it. No matter how much I try, I cannot. Before, I thought I would give him a lesson in our fight, but the more I think of it, the more impossible it seems to be to me. I'm just a girl from a normal civilian family, and he is a genius of the famous Hyuga clan, with a Kekkei Genkai no less. Don't worry Sakura, Kakashi rubbed the Pinket's hair. There's still a lot of time to train, you can do it. You don't understand, snapped Sakura. Didn't you see what happened to Hinata when she tried to fight him? She was nearly killed. And not only him, that Gaara boy also. Tears welled out of Sakura's eyes. I'm scared sensei. I don't want to die. Oi. Sakura. Huh. The next thing Sakura knew was that she was sprawling on the ground, courtesy of a punch from Anko. You idiot. I didn't teach you to be a coward. What is the meaning of all those training I gave you if you just insist on running away like that? But, Anko didn't let her finish. Only in life and death situation can people grow up. If you're that scared of dying, then go on, quit being a kunoichi and go back home, being a pathetic spoiled brat who will faint right in front of your enemy and become even easier to kill, like you were before. This is the world of shinobi, not of pathetic romance dramas where boys come out of nowhere to rescue you. At least if you face death by yourself, you might have a better chance of surviving. That's too hard for her, Anko, Kakashi scolded the Tokubetsu Jonin. Then he crouched down to Sakura. Sakura, it's normal for a person to be scared of things. But if you're scared, and you run away from it, you will run away from it forever. You're not scared of fighting. The only thing you're afraid about is yourself. You're afraid that your ability is nothing comparing to them, that you are just a normal civilian girl when they're geniuses, am I right? When Sakura nodded dumbly, he continued. Don't believe what that Neji said, Sakura. There is no rule saying that people cannot change themselves. Looking at Guy right now, have you ever thought that he used to be a loser who could not even use any technique, except a little taijutsu? Sakura's eyes widened when she heard this little piece of information. Really? Even Guy sensei? Yup. Kakashi I smiled. The fact that he's training a prodigy like Neji can be considered one of the greatest ironies in history. But that's for you to remember. Even the most incompetent failure can someday become powerful if they put their heart and soul into their efforts. Sakura's mind lingered back to a certain blonde, whiskered genin in her team. Besides, Kakashi added and stood back up, that is the reason why I and Anko are here, right? We're going to turn you into a force that no one will be able to underestimate. Sakura smiled and wiped her tears away. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, Anko-sensei. What do you mean Kabuto escaped from the prison? I'm sorry, Ibiki-san. But all the Anbu members assigned to guard his prison cell had already been murdered brutally when we arrived. Furthermore, the entrance of the cell looks like it was smashed apart from the outside. It's like someone broke in and rescued him, not that he broke out of the cell by himself. Damn it, Ibiki gritted his teeth. This is not gonna be good. Two figures, one male, one female, was walking on the trail leading to Konohagakure's Great Gate. Finally. I've been longing to try the famous hot spring of Konohagakure. My lady. We're not here to play. Yeah, Mo, you're just like an old geezer. The two guards, Azumo and Katetsu, spotted the advancing newcomers from afar. As the gate guarding specialists they were, they quickly pulled out their weapons and blocked the way of the two. Halt. State your purpose and business. The man of the two immediately jumped in front of the woman. Veins bulged up at the side of his eye patch, and Azumo, Katetsu, stop. They are our special guests, and you will let them through. The two, Eternal Chunin, turned back and bowed hastily. Lord Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi walked out from the gate, and smiled. Welcome to Konohagakure, Lady Mizukage. In the forest at the outskirt of Konoha. Thank you for the timely rescue, Orochimaru-sama. Orochimaru hissed out a laugh. You don't think I will go and rescue you, do you Kabuto? I didn't say that my lord, Kabuto hastily corrected himself. I just didn't expect Konoha to see through my cover. They're better than I thought. You know too much, Kabuto, Orochimaru hissed. I cannot let you fall into the hand of Konoha. What if they manage to get the details of my plan from you? Kabuto's eyes gleamed under his glasses. So you still don't trust me? And what if I don't, Kabuto? Orochimaru answered, still with the snake-like tone, but now, there was a hint of amusement in his voice. And killing intent, too. Kabuto gulped. Suddenly, the feeling of death stopped, and Orochimaru laughed. Just kidding, my dear boy. Without you, how can I do all those experiments with body modification? And you're a good spy, too. By the way, I have some good news for you. The 3 sacrifices we prepared were perfect. No sign of adverse reaction, and they're living now, very healthy. Why, yeah, that's good, Kabuto mumbled. And, it seems Karen was also captured. Do you plan to go rescue her? Orochimaru laughed again. That girl. Despite being an Uzumaki, she doesn't show any good quality except for that healing blood. No chakra chain, no talent in sealing jutsu, no exceptional chakra, nothing. Why should I bother? You're way more important to me than that failure of an Uzumaki. Then the snake man grabbed Kabuto's shoulder. Let's go, my boy. We need to do the final preparations. And about Karen, he added with a sneer, if you find a chance, silent her. Clothes. Check. Headband. Check. Weapon. Check. I thought you'll have to care about more important things than those trivial, Naruto-kun. You're going to war today, remember? Sure, Mata-chan. But there's nothing wrong with making myself a little bit cooler, Still, why do you still need those weapons? You can create them from chakra. And you can create explosions much greater than those explosive notes. Secret exposing. Duh. Naruto pulled his gloves, a new creation he had made during the month, up on his hands, then stood up. All right. Time to take on the final round, and Orochimaru. Welcome ladies and gentlemen, to the final round of the Chunin exam. The voice of Hayate Gecko echoed around the stadium. Yup. He is alive. Poor man didn't even have a chance to show off anything in canon, except for a fancy sword dance. But maybe he will not have any show time in this story either. Hey. Fourth wall breaking aside, right now, the 10 final combatants were standing in the field, facing all the audiences who were screaming their names, some applauding, others denouncing, in the same deafening volume. On the highest stand, from between the Mizukage and Kazekage, the third Hokage stood up and spoke. His voice boomed through the air, overwhelmed even the screaming of the crowd. Now, potential genin of all the villages. I, as well as everyone here, want to see from all of you nice, fair fights which show not only your power, but also your intelligence, your abilities to keep the situations under your control and many other things. So fight well, prove that you are true shinobi, not mindless fighting machines whose purpose is only to fight to the death. The old man gave Naruto a meaningful look when he said those words. Applauses rose from the crowd. You know what? I bet someone out there is seething in anger hearing that speech from the old man, Kurama snickered. I know, Naruto smirked inwardly. Wonder what that bastard had been doing during the invasion in our time. His hands closed into fists when he thought about Danzo. That man was the person Naruto hated the most, only below Madara. Come to think of it, that bastard was the cause of many bad events that happened in, and before Naruto's life. Nagato going mad and dreaming of creating weapons of mass destruction to bring peace to the world. Shisui being murdered for the Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi being forced, kinda, to massacre his own clan, leading to Sasuke going nuts, abandoning Konoha and trying to murder him, once. He glanced around. Thanks to Kurama's innate ability, he could feel the air reeking of evil emotions. So it's just like in our time, Orochimaru is really going to invade. The old man had told him not to worry, but what if something went wrong? Naruto, you should calm down, Goku said in his mind. Worrying too much is not good for you before a great fight. I know, but this is a war we're talking about here. Many people will die. And the old man, what if he cannot stop Orochimaru? No one said anything in a few seconds. Then, Kurama spoke up. I think it's time for you to start trusting on other people around you, Naruto. That man, while old, is still very strong. Besides, this time he's not alone. Look at the left side of the stand. Naruto looked, and was relieved when he saw Jiraiya over there. His eyes were both locking at the cage booth, and there was no trace of the usual goofy expression on his face. Just leave it to them. This is a fight they have to finish alone. I believe they already knew what they have to do, the vixen continued. Besides, don't you also have a work you have to do yourself? Oh yeah, Gaara. Naruto glanced at his left. Gaara was standing there, looking impassive as ever, but the killing intent exuding from his body towards him was near visible. He sighed. Yeah, worrying about many things at the same time will not solve anything. Orochimaru is strong, but the old man and pervy sage are both very powerful, too. He needs to trust in them. There is something else, though. I won't trust human. Kurama has finally opened up enough to believe in others. Naruto smirked inwardly. Creepy silence for a few seconds. So, do you want to feel a little bit of my trust, Naruto-kun? Naruto could feel everyone inside his head inching away from the nine-tailed vixen. Now, with the exclusion of Sasuke Uchiha and Haku Momochi, would the competitors return to the fighter's box above so that we can begin the first match of the day? Hayate's voice rose again, and all the other combatants jumped back to their box, leaving Sasuke and Haku facing each other on the field. Are the two fighters ready? Then, the first match of the final round, begin. Finally, our rematch. This time I'll not lose to you, Sasuke said with a smirk. We'll see about that soon, Haku answered with her own demure smile. Then, from both sides of the field, projectiles were launched. From Sasuke, they were 5 shuriken, and from Haku, there were 5 senbon. The senbon soared across the air to meet the shuriken on the air, and flew past them, cutting the nearly invisible ninja wires tied onto the throwing stars. Being pulled back by the force, the shuriken lost their momentum and fell to the ground in front of Haku harmlessly. One trick doesn't work twice, Sasuke-san. The ice girl sang. As I thought, it didn't work, so. In a blur, Sasuke was in front of Haku, his left hand on the hilt of his new katana in a reverse grip. With only a quick draw, the blade was already cutting through the air, aiming at Haku's exposing neck which seemed defenseless. Or so he thought. A sword made of ice, harder than any kind of metal, suddenly appeared out of thin air and blocked the blade, which was imbued with lightning chakra. But striking her wasn't his intention in the first place. Their eyes met for an instance. And even a mere instance was enough. The Sharingan's power is fully unlocked through 3 steps, corresponding to the 3 tomo. The first tomo grants the user the ability to see the color of chakra, and to see movements of his enemies in slow motion. The second one blesses the user with the power to break genjutsu with his eyes, and to record the motions of everything in sight into his brain. Because of this ability, the Uchiha clan members were infamous for their reputation of being ninjutsu thieves, due to the fact that they can record the hand seals of their opponents, as well as the movement of chakra in their bodies. And the last tomo, the ultimate state of a normal Sharingan, besides boosting all the above powers to the maximum limit, grants the user the ability to cast potent genjutsu with just a glance of his eyes. It is this ability which made the Uchiha the most fearsome force on the battlefield, just because of a simple fact. Very few people can fight without looking at the enemy's eyes. Especially in close combat. From a distance, it is possible to negate the Sharingan's ability of casting genjutsu by looking at his feet. But in such a close range, there's no way Haku could avoid his eyes. But in less than a second, Sasuke knew something was wrong. His body suddenly felt numb. He couldn't even move. It's as if he was completely bound by something, but at the same time, there was nothing there. He was now feeling the effect of his own genjutsu. What the? How? He couldn't move his hand to mold chakra to dispel the genjutsu fast enough. There's only one choice. He bit hard on his lips, and the pain pulled him out of the genjutsu right in time for him to jump back before a bunch of ice swords pierced through his body from above. But it didn't even stop. Blades after blades followed every step he took, and would have skewered him had he not owned the Sharingan. How did you do it? Sasuke gritted his teeth while swinging his katana to deflect another rain of ice projectiles. How did you reverse my genjutsu? Haku only replied with a mischievous smile. Why should I tell you? TCH. Then he caught a glance of Haku's eyes, and his eyes widened in realization. He didn't look at it clearly before, but in front of her irises, there was something looking like a pair of contacts glimmering like two tiny mirrors. It was them which deflected his genjutsu back to him. Genjutsu was useless. He must use something else. His back touched something wet and cold. Ice style. Chilling prison. Shit. To focus on the barrage of projectiles in front of him, he didn't expect something like a dome of ice forming behind his back. And now, the dome was closing very fast around him. There's no way he could escape quickly enough. With a loud click, the ice dome became an iceberg, completely trapping Sasuke inside. Sasuke tried to struggle. He couldn't. The round iceberg didn't just trap him inside, it also totally restrained his movement. He was frozen in place, literally. The Uchiha grimaced. Being frozen like this, very soon there wouldn't be enough oxygen for him to stay alive. Or maybe his body would freeze to death in this icicle prison. Breaking out of there with fire jutsu was not an option, either. With his arms locked in place like this, he couldn't make hand seals. Besides, having fought Haku before, he knew that her ice couldn't be melted just by normal fire jutsu. Furthermore, if he even managed to do that, there's a very high chance he would charbroil himself too. The air was starting to become harder to breathe. There's no other choice. It's time to reveal the fruit of his training. Sir Proctor, it seems Sasuke-san will not get out of there for a long time. Haku turned to Hayate with a smile. So what do we do now? Hayate coughed. Oh well, if it had come to this, the winner of this match is. The proctor's words were cut off abruptly because of the sudden loud rumble coming from the ice block. Vibration. What the? Haku stammered and took a step back, falling into stance immediately. Break ear rrr. To Haku's surprise and horror, the iceberg started melting. No, not melting, it was falling apart. It's only a few seconds before Sasuke emerged completely from the ice prison, a little pale but still completely healthy. How? This time, it's Haku's turn to grimace. How did you break my chilling prison? And just like before, Sasuke replied with a mischievous smile. Why should I tell you, Haku? Somewhere on the stands, snickers rose. What is, that jutsu? Choji asked while chewing like crazy on his chips. It is, lightning. Everyone turned to Zabuza, who had just blurted out that answer. It's the vibrating nature of lightning element chakra, the mist swordsman glared at Kakashi. That technique, he sent lightning element chakra into the ice around him, vibrating the water molecules in there to the maximum frequency, to the point the water forming the ice disintegrated. You taught him that, Kakashi. The masked Jonin chuckled. Sorry, but I didn't. Sasuke was the one who created it when I taught him about lightning element. I only helped him completing it. That jutsu is not as strong as the Chidori when it comes to killing, but in a way, it is even more powerful and destructive than my jutsu. Woohoo! Sasuke-kun is so awesome. Ino cheered loudly. Sasuke, that boy, he's such an incredible kid, Kakashi thought. It will be a disaster if someone like him falls into evil hands. So, back to the start again, are we? Haku smiled. Sasuke smirked, and answered. Yeah, but this time, things will be different. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. Balls of fire erupted from Sasuke's mouth and flew towards Haku with the speed of cannonballs. With a quick hand sign, a slab of ice rose in front of Haku like a wall, protecting her when the bullets of fire bombarded it one after another. Her eyes narrowed when the rather thick and heavy ice barrier shook dangerously with each impact. The power of his fire jutsu increased. Then her eyes widened when a blue blade of lightning chakra pierced through the ice slab. She quickly leaned aside to avoid it, but it still managed to graze through her left shoulder. Her arm suddenly felt numb, as if she'd just stuck it into a huge block of the coldest ice in the world. Surprised, she heard Sasuke's voice from behind the ice slab. Your ice might be so strong that even fire cannot melt, but lightning pierces everything. The wall of ice crumbled, revealing Haku who couldn't move her left arm due to the numbing sensation. Now let's see what you can do against me with one useless arm. With those words, Sasuke leapt at Haku and engaged her in a relentless taijutsu and kenjutsu assault. But with one arm lacking, it seemed she couldn't hold herself as good as before. Finally, with a quick thrust, Sasuke's sword impaled her in the stomach. On the stands, a loud gasp echoed. Oi Sasuke! Naruto exclaimed in horror. You didn't have to go that far. Don't worry Naruto, it's not over yet. Look closely. Down at the arena, Sasuke's victorious smirk morphed into a horrified gape when the Haku in front of him turned into a block of ice. Said ice was now creeping up the blade of the katana in a very fast pace. The Uchiha immediately let go of his sword, right before the ice completely froze the hilt. Seriously Sasuke-san, the silky voice of Haku rose from behind him. Did you forget that I'm specialized in fighting with one hand? Sasuke snapped his head back, only to find himself facing a mirror. And not only one mirror. A dome of mirrors had surrounded him, each reflecting an image of Haku. Just like the time at the bridge. And worse, this time, the mirrors were all connected with each other. There was absolutely no gap for him to escape from the dome of mirrors. Not like before. Sasuke is very fast for a genin of his age. In normal conditions, he definitely has a clear advantage against most genin in speed, power, and flexibility. The training with Kakashi during the last month improved those advantages even further, making him one of the most powerful genin of Konohagakure. But this was not a normal condition. Inside this dome of mirror, Haku was always the fastest. Even though his Sharingan had advanced enough for him to see her movement, there's no way his reflex would catch up with her, unless she's out of chakra. And it didn't seem to be the case at that moment. And who knows what kind of training Zabuza, her Jonin teacher and adoptive father, the one famous for his power and brutality, bearing the alias Devil of the Hidden Mist, gave her during the training month. Okay Sasuke, think, what did you do the last time you're trapped in this jutsu? The last time, his fire jutsu, together with Naruto's wind jutsu, had blown up the mirror dome. But there's no Naruto here now. From a mirror, Haku's body started emerging, ready for the assault that would finish Sasuke off. Wait, she has to leave the mirror if she wants to strike me. If that's the case, he has a way. It would cost a lot of chakra, but it's now, or never. Haku emerged completely from the mirror and started ricocheting between mirrors, while pelting Sasuke with her Senbon. The Uchiha winced when the deadly needles stabbed into his body. Not yet. It's not ready yet. A few more seconds. Haku flew towards him, a bunch of Senbon on her hand, ready for the finishing strike. Now. Chidori. Current. Lightning blasted out from Sasuke's body, lighting up the whole ice dome, making it look like a disco ball when looking from the outside. The air was suddenly full of Haku's screams of pain and horror, startling everyone in the stadium. What the? Zabuza muttered. What's happening in there? Don't tell me. Sasuke's voice rose from inside the dome. Surrender now, or you will die. The walls of ice crumbled down, revealing an awkward scene. Sasuke was sprawling face down on the ground, breathing hard, his clothes were torn and sleazy. And under him was a blushing and trembling Haku, whose eyes were full of tears and limbs were pinned down under the boy's arms and legs. Half of her skirt and a large part of her sweater were torn apart, revealing rather large bits of her, underwear to the audiences. Awkward silence. I forfeit, Haku answered in a meek voice. But since you've done this to me, you'll need to take responsibility. Die. Uchiha. Sasuke had to scramble out of the way when Kubikiribocho soared through the air, aiming for his neck. What the hell? Die. Let's just say right now, Sasuke was running faster than even Lee with his weights removed. And with a tired body, no less. While Sasuke was running for his life with Zabuza right behind him, Kubikiribocho swinging haphazardly, Naruto jumped down to the arena and picked Haku up, bridal style. You did that on purpose, did you Haku-chan? He deadpanned. The girl only giggled mischievously in response. Naruto sighed. I can't believe you're such a sore loser, what are you doing? He raised an eyebrow when Haku started rubbing her cheek on his chest. You smell so good, she answered in a dreamy voice. Naruto really wanted to facepalm, but if he did that he would drop her. So he had to satisfy himself with a deep sigh. Luckily for him, Zabuza was too busy trying to maim Sasuke to see the, rather intimate actions of the two children. Somewhere else, Hinata bolted up from her bed. Naruto-kun is being violated. Then she fell over, back into her coma again. Dear Kami. Hinata-san. Okay. Hayate said awkwardly. Since Haku has forfeited, the winner of this match is Sasuke Uchiha. Our Haku-chan is so cute, do you think so Hokage-sama, Kazekage-sama? Mei giggled in the cage box. Hiruzen smiled. Indeed. She is a rather interesting genin you have there, Mizukage-sama. What she used is the ice-style Kekkei Genkai, right? Interesting. And the Uchiha's power. Nice. From under his veil, the voice of the Kazekage also rose up. There was a very slight hint of hunger in that voice, so tiny that almost no one could hear it. But that didn't escape the ears of the third Hokage. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed slightly for a moment, but it went away as quickly as it had come, and he smiled again. Well, I assure you that there are still many other interesting things you haven't seen, Kazekage-sama. Finally, after Kakashi and two other Jonin managed to restrain Zabuza and pull him back to the stand, Sasuke finally dragged himself up to the box for contestants. He looked half dead. Are you okay? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Do you even have to ask? Sasuke breathed out in exhaustion. That man is crazy. And stop laughing, you, he snapped when Haku began to giggle. And she had already changed into a new set of clothes, so please stop your naughty thinking. Everyone, minus Gaara of course, broke into laughter. Even Neji, who's supposed to be the cool and stoic Hyuga, also smirked slightly. Except for one person. And somehow, Naruto was the only one who noticed that. The others were too busy laughing and teasing Sasuke, or in Sasuke's place, fuming in rage and sputtering meaningless noises to notice. Maybe it was because of Kurama's ability to sense negative emotions. Sakura. He lightly grasped the girl's shoulder and whispered to her ear. You're worried, aren't you? Sakura nearly jumped when the hand touched her shoulder, but managed to relax when she realized that was Naruto's. Why yeah, she mumbled. She wanted to look at him, but her head felt so heavy she couldn't even lift it up. Then she nearly jumped again when she felt Naruto's arm wrapping around her waist. She really wanted to turn back and mow him down for daring to touch her like that, especially in that place. But, don't worry, Sakura, I know that you trained yourself hard during the last month. With all those training, I believe you can do it. Just give it all your best, and don't let his taunts get into your head, and you'll be fine. He's cheering for her. Somehow, it calmed her down, and all the fear lingering in her head seemed to disappear. She felt herself stronger and more confident. And, why is he so warm? No, bad Sakura, he's Naruto. Don't think about him like that. Will the two next contestants, Sakura Haruno and Neji Hyuga, come down here for the next match to start? Hey, it's time. Naruto slapped his pink-haired teammate's back. Show it to them that you're a real kunoichi. Sakura smiled. All of her hesitation and fright had completely gone. Yeah, thanks, Naruto. Then she bopped Naruto on the head. Ow, what was that for? That's for feeling me up, idiot. But Naruto smiled, knowing that the hit was noticeably gentler than before. Neji glared at Sakura and sneered in his usual haughty voice. Fate has decided that you will lose to me. You, a useless fangirl, have no chance against me. I've noticed since the moment you arrived at the stadium. You couldn't stop trembling. Your head was lowered, and your eyes kept glancing left and right. That's the sign of hesitation, discouragement and lack of confidence. That's why. Oh, shut up. Not only Neji, but everyone was taken aback with the girl's answer. What did you just say? Neji's eyes narrowed. I said, shut up. Sakura simply said. Who gives you the right to judge other people? I didn't train my off all last month to surrender before we even start fighting. It seems she caught up a bit of Anko's language, too. You are annoying. And a fool. Neji shook his head. Rushing headfirst into battle without even thinking of the consequences, just like Hinata-sama, he said those last words in a venomous tone. Hinata again, what is wrong with those two? By the way, why do you hate Hinata so much? Sakura voiced her question, and Neji's eyes immediately hardened. It's none of your business, he snapped coldly. But that only made Sakura more curious. I don't get it. What did Hinata ever do to you? A sweet, innocent girl like her, she doesn't want to harm even an ant. Suddenly, Neji rushed at Sakura like a mad bull, his left palm full of chakra lashed out at the girl like a snake lunging at its prey. Luckily, Sakura managed to jump back to avoid the strike, but when she looked at Neji's face, she could see the furious rage engraved into his eyes and the snarl on his mouth. He opened combat first, so Hinata's name pushed his berserk button. Sakura took a few jumps backwards, and with a flick of her arm, a barrage of shuriken was sent towards Neji. The Hyuga easily avoided it by tilting his head to the right. When Neji managed to keep his balance, he was even more surprised when he saw Sakura right in front of him, her fist back. But this kind of attack was not something that could give Neji a hard time. He quickly ducked, and the fist soared above his head. He could hear the whizzing sound of tearing wind in the air. The girl's reckless punch packed a lot of power, but it left a huge hole in her defense. And Neji was not the one who would waste such an opportunity. His hand lashed out again, aiming at her exposed stomach. And this time, it hit. With a loud pop and smoke, a log appeared in place of Sakura. Substitution. Equipped with the Byakugan, Neji didn't have to look up to see the real Sakura descending down his head. He quickly rolled away, right before the girl's foot smashed the place where he had just stood, leaving a rather large web of cracks on the ground. TCH. But Sakura didn't just stop there. Jet step. Right upon touching the ground, a quick burst of chakra exploded from the bottom of her feet, propelling her towards Neji like a springboard. The momentum of the chakra burst also boosted her kick, which was now flying toward Neji's waist in a rather high speed. Neji raised his left arm to block, and cringed when he felt his wrist nearly broken under the impact. That kick was, by no doubt, nearly as strong as Lee's. But the kick also left a fatal opening. It was a flying kick, and with such a close distance, if Neji counters, the girl will not have any way to dodge. Neji's right hand lashed out, aiming for Sakura's chest. But the strike never connected. Right before his palm could touch Sakura, another burst of chakra was released from her feet, quickly pushing her away from the incoming attack. The Pinkett backflipped on the air, and landed on the ground gracefully without even breaking a sweat, but not before delivering a kick across Neji's nose, drawing a thin line of blood. The two fighters separated, and Sakura gave Neji a mock smile. Still gonna call me a useless fangirl, Mr. Hyuga Prodigy. Neji's face turned purple with fury. Go Sakura. Kick his. Ino screamed from her seat on the stand. You got a good student there, Kakashi. Asuma nodded at Kakashi. The Cyclops Jonin just chuckled. What is jet step? I haven't heard of anything like that before. Kiba looked at Kakashi. The Jonin chuckled again. Frankly, it's just the release of chakra from her feet. It's just a normal technique that any genin with training of chakra control can use. However, with Sakura, the one who has perfect chakra control, together with her raw power, it becomes the most dangerous and effective weapon we could ever think of. But why is she only using taijutsu? Kurenai also raised a question. That was only for close-range combat, and Neji specializes in that. That would put her in a severe disadvantage. Nah, don't worry Kurenai, Kakashi answered her with an eye smile. Sakura might be excellent in chakra control and genjutsu, but actually, the skill she has the most potential in is taijutsu. I believe she will be able to hold her own, and defeat Neji. You're kidding. Kurenai gasped in disbelief. You think I don't know who that girl is? She's a fangirl of the Uchiha who just started training seriously for more than a month. And you let her fight against Neji, the Hyuga prodigy, with only taijutsu. Haven't you noticed what happened to Hinata? And she was the member of the Hyuga clan, no less. I have to agree with Kurenai here, Kakashi, Guy also said. It's youthful to trust in your student, but this is very irresponsible of you. If this continues, she will get hurt. Kakashi turned to Guy and Kurenai. Guy, you, of all people, don't have the right to tell me that. You think I don't know that you taught forbidden jutsu to one of your genin? Do you know that it can kill him? And you let another fall so deep into hatred and vengeance he now become like this? He glanced at Neji in the arena. What kind of irresponsible teacher is that? The words of Kakashi stunned Guy for a moment. He opened his mouth to retort, but Kakashi raised one hand to stop him. Just keep watching, Guy. You will understand why Sakura will win this match. After all, she still hasn't shown up all of her tricks. There are things that users of only taijutsu cannot do. It's true that Sakura did push herself to the limit during her training days, and had improved so much that there was no trace of the old fangirl Sakura left on her. But Neji was not called the genius of the Hyuga clan for naught. Sakura's attacks, while deadly, were not unpredictable. As a specialist in taijutsu, he got himself familiar with most of Sakura's attack pattern after trading only a few blows, and soon, he was finally able to push the girl back. It was a miracle Sakura didn't let him land any decisive blow on her body. A quick push from Neji made Sakura jump back a few steps. She crouched back into her stance, breathing heavily. Have you realized the difference between our strength? From the middle of the arena, the voice of Neji rose again. You are just trying in vain. No matter how hard you try, you can never defeat me. Trying to change yourself through hard work is just an illusion. The Pinkett grimaced. It's true. Even with all those blows, I couldn't even land a clean hit on him. He's just too strong. Do I have any hope? Then she shook her head. This is not the time for thinking about that. I'm here to win, and I've prepared so much for this. There is no time for hesitation. It's time for her to change tactic. If power isn't effective, speed will be the next thing to try. Jet step. Neji's eyes narrowed. What is she going to do? Second shift. The ground under Sakura's feet exploded, and the girl flew towards Neji with the speed of a rocket. If jet step first shift is the quick, constant release of chakra to make Sakura's movement faster and more flexible, the second shift is a powerful concentrated burst of chakra, released in an instant, to make her body a bullet shot from a gun. Humans' eyes, Kekkei Genkai or not, might be able to see the way a bullet flies at them. But evading it is a completely different matter. The Hyuga's eyes could see the movement, but his body couldn't follow it fast enough. Only through sheer luck and reflex did he manage to avoid the fist of the girl from caving his face in, but it still grazed across the side of his face, and ripped his hitaiate off his head. The headband fell to the ground with a loud clang. Sakura turned, and with another explosion of chakra, flew at Neji again, her fist launching another punch. And this time, it met the target. Or more exactly, it should have. There was a layer of chakra surrounding Neji's body. Her punch, although enhanced with the boost of speed, couldn't get through it. And rotation. Sakura was thrown away violently when the dome of chakra erupted from the Hyuga's body. She fell mercilessly on the ground with a loud thud, and winced when feeling the bone in her left arm cracked slightly by the impact. On the stand, Hiashi Hyuga's eyes narrowed. Rotation, how can it be? It's the special technique only passed down to the heirs of the clan. Did he master it on his own? What is that? Sakura breathed out, and Neji smirked. This is the Hyuga clan's absolute defense, revolving heaven. You cannot. I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about that. Her finger was pointing at Neji's forehead, where the symbol of the caged bird seal lay. Neji's eyes hardened. So you saw this. If you really want to know, this is the symbol of the Hyuga clan's curse of hatred, a mark showing the fate of the branch house members. And this, his voice suddenly turned to a snarl, is the reason why my father was killed, by the main family. The branch house has the fate of becoming the ones who protect members of the main house, and that destiny was marked with this caged bird seal. When I was 4, I was turned into the bird in the cage, through this curse. They're not simply for decoration. They are also the tool of the main house to seal the Byakugan off when we die, and to keep us in place like dog leashes. The Hyuga's hands curled into fists. One night, Hinata-sama was kidnapped by someone. Of course, Hiashi-sama noticed it right away, and killed the kidnapper with a blow to his heart. Do you know who he was? He was the ambassador of Kumogakure, who was in Konoha that day to sign an alliance with the village. A murmur spread through the audience. Because of that, Kumo and Konoha nearly got into a war, Neji spat out with a hateful glare. But then, Konoha got an excellent idea to prevent that from happening, offering the body of a Hyuga with the Byakugan as peace treaty. And whose body it was? Of course it was my father's. He was killed by the main house to replace Hiashi-sama, who was too precious for them to lose. This time, a loud gasp echoed through the stadium. There were people who knew about the Hyuga clan affair before, but hearing it out from a member of the clan made it sound 10 times worse. Some eyes glanced at Hiashi, who was now trying his best not to bury his face in his hands. Is it true, sensei? Ino looked at Guy. Is it true that Hinata's dad killed Neji's dad? I don't know. The taijutsu master shook his head. I have asked Neji about this before, but he didn't answer. I don't even know what he's just said was true or not. The Hyuga clan likes to keep their secrets for themselves, so. So that's it, Sakura murmured. She had arrived here, with the only intention to defeat the Hyuga jerk at first, but she didn't expect that there was such a long history behind the boy. That's the reason why you're so hostile against Hinata. You think that she was the reason behind your father's death. Finally realized it, Neji smirked. Then you should have understood that no matter how hard you try, you will never escape fate. Just like my father and I being pushed into the branch house, everything is always for the sake of the main house. Never were members of the branch house deserved any respect. Is it the truth, or is it what you thought? Neji surely didn't expect such a question. What? I am asking you if that is really the truth or just what you imagined by yourself, Sakura repeated calmly. Her face, surprisingly, was full of disgust, disappointment, and even pity. It is true that your father was dead, but what does it have to do with Hinata? She was just a 3-year-old child at that time. And you have been trying to kill her, because she couldn't do anything to fight back against a Jonin-level ninja at least. I am not the best at those tragedy stories, but even I can see that you are just trying to find someone to blame for your father's death. You, Neji snarled angrily, but Sakura didn't let him finish his sentence. I'm disgusted of the name. Prodigy, people give you. I understand you're hurt because of your father's demise, but it's wrong to think destiny is all decided because of that. And you also have no right to force other people to believe in the fate. You decide for them. Neji's Byakugan gleamed dangerously. Then, with a very quick movement, he charged at Sakura. The girl couldn't react fast enough to dodge the fingers aiming at her. 8 trigrams, 2 palms. Sakura gasped when the fingers poked her at the ribs. She felt a sharp pain, like needles stabbing through her skin, and the places attacked went numb. 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. On the stand, Hiyashi's eyes widened. That is the 8 trigrams 64 palms. Sakura screamed and stumbled back. Her whole body was burned with searing pain, and she couldn't feel chakra in her body anymore. This is what Hinata had to suffer. The Pinket's body fell on the ground with a loud thud. I have warned you, and you didn't listen, Neji glared coldly at the girl on the ground. A spoiled brat like you, who knows nothing about the pain of losing someone close to you, can never understand. You can never understand what it's like to be burdened with something you can never get rid of. That is something decided by destiny, and there is no way to change it. My father tried to defy his destiny once, and he was killed. That was the fate of people who tried to go against their destiny. Just like you. Then he turned to Hayate. Referee, this match is over. She cannot fight anymore. Declare the winner. Don't underestimate me. Neji glanced back, and was shocked when he saw Sakura pushing herself up from the ground. How? She shouldn't have been able to move. I may not be able to understand that pain of yours, she gasped out. But don't you dare thinking that only you have a bad past. Both of my teammates have pasts even worse than you. Both lost nearly everything precious of their lives. One of them also has to bear the greatest burden. He was the dead last of our class, the troublemaker of the village. Everyone hates him, but he has always faced them with a smile, always tried to become better, and now, he has become one of the best genin I've ever seen, on the contestant box. Naruto grinned, and Sasuke snorted. He is the one who gave me the reason to become a better kunoichi, so, don't you dare, saying that people cannot change. Ha! Better kunoichi, you say? Neji laughed. Right now you cannot even stand properly. Without proof, all those pretty words you have just said are just empty, meaningless blabbers. Face it, you will never be able to become anything but a weakling who can do nothing but depends on your teammates. Don't listen to him, Sakura. Everyone turned to the contestants' box, where this new voice originated. It was Naruto who had just yelled out. He was looking at Sakura with an encouraging smile on his face. If you believe in yourself, there is nothing you cannot do. As long as we are here, you will never be a weakling. Give it your best, and show him what you got. It is true. Next to Naruto, Lee was also screaming to the sky with his signature loud voice. Your way of thinking is the most youthful, Sakura-san. The flame of youth is burning brightly inside you, you will prevail. After this exam is over, please be my girlfriend. Lee. Tenten scolded him in horror. Sakura would have blushed like mad and tried to scramble away from there as fast as possible if her body hadn't hurt so much. Hey, don't worry, I don't plan to give up right now, she grinned. She had finally managed to stand up properly. That's right, this is the time to unleash my final trump card. Flashback. Remember Sakura, an important note when you fight Hyuga clan members is that you must never let them hit you, Kakashi said. As far as I know, they have attacks that are able to hit your tenketsu and shut them down, making you unable to access chakra. If that's the case, even Jet Step will become useless. You're asking me the impossible thing, Sensei. Sakura stared at him. Try my best or not, Neji is still a taijutsu genius. How can I fight him without getting hit even once? Kakashi winced. That was a pretty good reasoning. That Neji boy was a member of the Hyuga clan, famous for their taijutsu, and a student of Guy, no less. Even with her newly developed technique, how might he expect Sakura to win without letting him hit her? If that's the case, we'll have to find a way to counter him when you're hit, then. But, Kakashi scratched his cheek, I don't think there is any way to counter it once you got hit by them. Unless you can force your tenketsu open with a strong burst of chakra from an outside source. Well, that was easy, Anko butted in. Just store your chakra into a scroll, then when you're hit, pop it out, and voila. Good as new. Ha ha ha. She laughed. That was only a joke, but Kakashi's visible eye suddenly widened. You know, that's actually not a bad idea. End flashback. Neji's right eyebrow quirked when Sakura clapped her hands together. It's useless. Your chakra network was sealed completely. You cannot use chakra anymore, don't bother, huh? His eyes widened when a blue flame of chakra started glowing around Sakura's stomach. Not only that, it was glowing stronger and stronger. What? How? This is impossible. Then the flame exploded. With the Byakugan activated, Neji could see, in horror, chakra bursting from the place on Sakura's stomach into her chakra network. Wherever the chakra stream spread to, the tenketsu there was forced open immediately. What is this? How did you? Surprised. Huh. Sakura smiled triumphantly. This is all the chakra I've stored during the last training month. Seems the gentle fist is not so perfect anymore, is it? Now prepare yourself, because this will be the last attack of this match. With those words, Sakura once again launched herself at Neji. That chakra burst, it's even stronger than before. Rotation. Sakura was once again tossed away by the dome of chakra surrounding Neji, but this time, with a burst of chakra, she did a backflip on the air and landed on the ground easily and quickly enough to pull out some shuriken and throw them at Neji, who had just finished spinning. The boy also pulled out his own shuriken and threw. The star-shaped projectiles met each other on the air, making some loud clang. Why didn't he just use rotation again? Could it be? For the first time since the match began, Neji's face showed a worried expression. Sakura rushed in again with another air-splitting kick, and this time, Neji had to retreat. Neji Hyuga, the prodigy of the Hyuga clan, of all people, was forced to retreat in a taijutsu battle. With a normal kunoichi without any special ability, no less. But even Sakura couldn't hold it for much longer. Forceful sudden injection of such a large amount of chakra into the body of a human is dangerous. Even right now, Sakura's whole body was in throbbing pain. Yet, she was still forcing her way in valiantly, not even caring about her body. Why? Why are you trying so hard? Because, Sakura punctuated every word with a punch, you look down on everyone with lower status than you. You spat on people's effort to become better, thinking it was decided by some stupid destiny and fate. And, she launched an especially nasty punch to Neji's face, forcing the Hyuga to duck and roll away. You said that I could not become anything but a weakling who needed to depend on my teammates. She bounced back, and Neji's Byakugan widened when he realized all the remaining chakra in Sakura's body started flowing towards her feet. Not good. Rotation. Neji's ultimate defense exploded into life once again with maximum force right before the pink bullet slammed into him with all the power she could manage. The two forces collided, and for a while, it seemed the girl had managed to pierce through. But finally, Sakura was the one who was thrown away, even more forcefully than before, by the immense force of the revolving heaven. Even in the hand of a genin, the ultimate defensive jutsu of the Hyuga clan is still not a force that can be underestimated. It was created based on the concept of retaliation, with all of its meaning. The more powerful the opponent's techniques are, the more damaging rotation becomes. And with the speed and power Sakura was exuding right now, it was no wonder why she was blown away so violently. Most people didn't even notice the Senbon flying out of Sakura's sleeve towards the spinning dome. Senbon, different from kunai, is very small and slim, and thus faster and harder to be noticed from afar, as Haku had, very clearly and painfully for her enemies, proved it. And it is even more dangerous with an exploding tag wrapping outside. The Byakugan has a vision of 360 degrees, so even when spinning, Neji could still see everything around him without getting dizzy. Therefore, it is not a big surprise to see the very same eyes widening in horror when he saw the lone Senbon advancing towards him as the dome of chakra around him started reducing in size and exploded when his rotation completely dissipated. Just remember, everyone, even if you don't have stupidly humongous tailed beast chakra or fancy exploding clay ninjutsu, you can still make some nice booms with just papers with weird symbols on them. She timed the explosion so perfectly, right after my rotation completely finished. What is she? What happened? From the stand, Kurenai exclaimed. Where did that explosion come from? It's from Sakura. Right before she crashed on the ground, Kakashi explained. They're both down, Ino said, pointing at the arena. It was true. Right now both Sakura and Neji were sprawling on the ground. Who will be the winner? Then, Neji was the one who managed to push himself up first. The boy's body was full of bruises. He was breathing heavily, and his Byakugan were deactivated. You fought well, he gasped out when dragging his feet to where Sakura was lying. But this is the end. This is reality. Guy looked at Kakashi. Too bad, my eternal rival, but the match is decided. Being able to push Neji of all people this much, your student burned brightly with the flame of youth. It's a pity she lost. I wouldn't say that so soon if I were you, Guy, Kakashi answered him in a triumphant tone. What? That was also what Neji exclaimed when two hands emerged from the ground, and grabbed his legs. Earth style. Headhunter jutsu. How did you? The Hyuga could only croak those words out after he was buried to the neck in the ground. Sakura, who was standing above him right now, pointed a kunai at his forehead. She looked completely exhausted, but in her eyes, there was a blazing flame of determination which forced her to stay standing. And she was no longer wearing her longcoat. It was because you never bothered to look underneath, Neji, she said. She was so tired that her voice was reduced to near whisper. Over there is just a decoy I made with my coat right before I crashed to the ground. The explosion was also only a decoy. My aim since you first use your rotation has always been trapping you in the ground like this. If you cannot move, all of your gentle fist abilities are useless. Now, she moved her kunai down to his neck. Will you forfeit? She actually managed to defy fate. Could it be? I forfeit. This was the first time everyone in the stadium heard the prodigy of the Hyuga clan uttered those sad words. Silence filled the air for a few seconds. Then, Hayate's voice boomed around the stadium. Winner by forfeit, Sakura Haruno. The crowd erupted into cheers. Everyone was surprised that the Hyuga prodigy was defeated, and by forfeit, no less, by a normal kunoichi who had still just been a fanatic member of the Sasuke fan club just a few months ago. Thank goodness, it's finally over, I did it. With those final words, Sakura finally allowed herself to collapse. Will Sakura be alright? The medic nin treating Sakura lifted his head up and gave Naruto a smile. Don't worry. Aside from chakra exhaustion, fractured arm bones, 3 broken ribs and slight rupture in her chakra network due to the forced injection of chakra into the system, she'll be alright. But it seems she will not be able to continue the Chunin exam. What a pity. She is such a promising candidate. That's not what I would call alright. You know, Naruto mumbled. The medic nin chuckled. Oh, cheer up, boy. Your girlfriend will be fine with us. By the way, your match is coming, isn't it? You'd better focus on that rather than worrying about her. Naruto blushed. Wah, she's not my girlfriend. Didn't you have a crush on her since you're in the academy? Kurama noted dryly. Not helping. But you know, Shukaku suddenly said, that girl's fight reminds me of your own battle during our time, Naruto. The reckless charges, the speech, using chakra to force open the chakra network, even that final underground attack, too. Don't you find it weird? Ah, Sasuke Senpai noticed me, hee. Naruto grinned mentally. Even not being able to see, he could still feel Shukaku blushing bright red. Yup, he was able to make Shukaku, of all people, blush. Naruto is just that awesome. Wah, how, BWAH, you. I didn't. And stop calling me with that name. Tsunere. Gyuki snorted, and received a punch to the face, courtesy of our favorite flustering Tanuki. That's not true, Shukaku. Kokuo shook his head. That girl's attacks might be reckless, but they're all practiced thoroughly from before the match. That's why she could execute them so perfectly. I bet she got a strategy for this match even before they started fighting. That's completely different from Naruto's style. Reckless, unpredictable without any strategy, and sometimes brainless, too. Hey look, Isobu piped in, the match of the Nara boy and the sand girl is about to begin. Guy, can I have a moment with Neji alone? Hiashi Hyuga stepped into the medical chamber. The taijutsu master looked at him warily for a moment, but then he nodded and walked out of the room, leaving the two Hyuga alone. What do you want? Neji sneered. Are you here to laugh at me? I am not, and you will never see me doing that, Hiashi answered stoically. The reason I'm here is to apologize to you. Then, the proud head of the Hyuga clan did something no one could ever expect. He kneeled on the ground and bowed down to Neji. Neji was completely shocked. However, at the same time, a barbaric happiness surged up from inside his stomach. And you think saying sorry alone is enough? He snapped bitterly. Sorry alone won't bring my father back. Can you bring him back to me? Why should I accept your apology? Hiashi stayed silent for a while. Then, he answered sadly. That is also what I come here for. I want to talk to you about your father. Neji's eyes widened. We regret to inform you that contestant Sakura Haruno is in no condition to continue with the exam. However, because contestant Neji Hyuga has lost his match, he cannot replace contestant Haruno. Hayate's announcement raised a wave of murmur from the audience. Because of this unexpected circumstance, after the 3 last matches of the first round, there will be 2 semifinal matches and then, the 2 winners of the semifinal matches will face each other in the final match. Now, will the 2 next contestants, Shikamaru Nara of Konohagakure, and Temari of Sunagakure come down to the field? Temari floated down to the field immediately with a swing of her giant fan. However, Shikamaru still leaned on the rail of the contestant box and sighed. This is so troublesome, why do I have to fight? And my opponent is a girl, no less. Maybe I should just throw the match right now. Poor guy. He didn't even see Naruto and Sasuke's evil grins behind his back. Oh, just go down there, will you? The Nara boy couldn't even scream out when 2 hands grabbed his collar from behind and threw him down the contestant's box. I've always wanted to do that. A rather smug-looking Sasuke looked at Naruto, who answered him with a grin. You don't know anything, Sasuke, you just don't know anything. Curse you, Naruto and Sasuke. I have to admit, that boy is lazy, but when needed, he's pretty good, Isobu noted while Shikamaru was jumping back to avoid the swing of the gigantic fan at his cranium. Then he winced when the Nara boy was blasted to the wall with a tornado. Ooh, that must have hurt. That Temari girl was so brutal. Especially when it comes to her future boyfriend, Shukaku piped in. She had lived with the girl for so long it became kind of a common knowledge. Don't worry. Shikamaru is incredibly smart. He will definitely find some way to counter her. Oh, there he goes, Naruto added when Shikamaru slipped into his thinking pose. Temari looked at her opponent with wary eyes when he sat down and did a weird gesture with his hand. What is that lazy bum doing? Then her eyes narrowed when a victorious grin appeared in his face. She jumped back a few steps to avoid the shadow shooting out from his feet, which was now chasing after her. The shadow was moving with a considerable speed towards Temari, but that speed wasn't anything a ninja of Temari's caliber couldn't follow. She jumped left and right, easily evading the black tendrils chasing after her. And she smirked when the shadow stopped when they're just 1 step from catching up. It was near noon already, and it seemed the shadows were all shortened so much Shikamaru's technique could only stretch that far. 15 meters is the limit. Her opponent's specialty is shadow controlling. As long as she can avoid the trees where there'll be lots of shadow, she'll be fine. Then she saw a bunch of shuriken and kunai flying at her. So the shadows are just distraction. But this is foolish. Wind scythe jutsu. She swung her fan, and the deadly projectiles were swatted away with another mini tornado. And on the branches of the trees in the battleground, deep scratches started appearing. The jutsu also has very potent cutting power. But all the shuriken and kunai suddenly stopped in the air after they were deflected. Then they turned mid-air, and once again flew at Temari, who was caught completely surprised and had to jump away from the barrage of steel coming from every direction, courtesy of her own jutsu. Those shadows of him, he was using them to control the flight path of his weapons. She was the one who started the assault, but he was the one who had played her like a puppet since the start of the match. And there he was, looking at her and smirking like a bastard. All right, calm down Temari, there was nothing to lose your head about, you still have the advantage of range, as long as I stay out of the shadow's range, I will be fine. The shadow once again advanced towards her. But there's no need to worry, she's still out of the shadow's range. Then to her surprise and horror, the black tendril on the ground slid through the kunai and shuriken littering on the ground just like a snake. And it was closing the distance faster and faster. The shadows of kunai and shuriken might not be very long, but they are perfect for a shadow user to exploit for extending his shadow when they're connected with each other. With each weapon shadow on the ground, Shikamaru will have another additional 15 meters to the range of his own shadow. That means with all those weapons littering on the ground, he will have complete control over the whole battleground. Temari knew she was completely outsmarted. There was absolutely no redundant move he had made. Everything he threw at her was planned clearly and thoroughly in advance. Even her own movements were also within his calculation. The Suna girl's blood boiled. There's no way she would let that bastard play her as he wanted. She spun and swung her fan with all her might, and all the kunai and shuriken on the ground were all blown to the sky. They flew out of the stadium, and their shadows disappeared from the ground. Without the additional shadows, Shikamaru stopped chasing after her, and started shrinking. With those annoying things out of the battlefield, she wouldn't have to worry about the shadow anymore. Then she had to hastily withdraw her fan to block when Shikamaru appeared suddenly out of nowhere and threw a punch at her. She smirked when the punch couldn't even make her hand shake. That's all you have. Pathetic. No, the smirk didn't even phase on the Nara's face. Shadow possession jutsu, success. What the? Oh no. She had completely forgotten, for just a moment, that when he closed the distance between their shadows was also reduced. But that very same moment was the thing which cost her the match. And now she could only stand there and glare at the boy in rage, completely unable to do anything when he started raising his hand. Oh well, this is such a drag. I forfeit. Yeah, talk about dramatic. This timeline had become so close to Naruto's timeline it was becoming kinda stupid. Wait, what the hell? What do you mean you forfeit? Temari asked in confusion when the shadow retreated from her feet. Using the shadow possession jutsu for so long has exhausted my chakra, Shikamaru sighed. I'm getting tired of this. One match is enough. Being able to think of 200 moves ahead will not do anything if I don't have chakra. It's needless to describe how appalled the whole stadium was right now. Liar. You just said that because you're lazy. Naruto said loudly. The tension suddenly broke. Nearly everyone broke into laughter, and Shikamaru muttered. Damn that Naruto, he's the most troublesome person I've ever met. Hayate chuckled. That Nara boy was strange, but at the same time, he had great potential. Winner by forfeit, Temari. See, he did it. Naruto grinned. Well, I didn't say he wouldn't be able to do it, Kokuo shrugged. But still, that boy has an extraordinary mind for someone of his age. There aren't many people with that level of intelligence even in our father's time, you know. Coming from the most knowledgeable being in the world, that statement is definitely extravagant. Peef. Goku laughed. What good is being intelligent for if you don't have the power to back it up? And that's the reason why you're just a stupid knucklehead, Matabi said dryly. Oi. A swirl of sand from right next to him made Naruto jump. Gaara had disappeared from the contestant box and was now standing on the battleground, even before Shikamaru and Temari managed to leave. He was now looking at Naruto with a bloodthirsty glare. Come down here, Uzumaki, it's time. Seems he's really eager to kill you now, Isobu noted. Yeah, thanks to a certain Tanuki, Naruto deadpanned mentally. Shukaku just whistled innocently. Well, there's no way to withdraw now. He took a deep breath, and, after taking a final glance at the cage booth, he jumped down to the arena. Little did he know that his match would have to be postponed for a while. I have to say, it was an interesting match. From the right of Sarutobi's seat, Mei spoke up. The old Hokage chuckled. Indeed. That boy is from the Nara clan, a family in our village which is famous for their intelligence and strategic mind. If I must say, the only weakness he has is his lazy attitude. He will become a great shinobi in the future, I dare say. That is not important right now, the cage sitting on his left said. The next match is the match between our Gaara and one of your genin. It will be much more interesting to see the Jinchuriki of our village in action, don't you think so? Mei's eyes narrowed, but Hiruzen only laughed. You're true. That battle will be interesting. After all, the old man's voice suddenly sharpened. This is also a very flashy and easy to realize flare to signal the beginning of your invasion, am I right? What? The man wearing the cage's hat had to jump out of his seat down to the arena hastily when a red and white blur appeared above his head and slammed down hard at where he had been sitting just a second ago with two Rasengan on his hands. Hokage. He snarled under the veil on his face, what is the meaning of this? I'm disappointed of you. The old Hokage also jumped down to the arena. He didn't smile anymore. Do you really think that killing a cage, then dumping his body in the middle of a desert will allow you to replace him that easily? You have underestimated the ability of Konoha's spy network. It's time for you to remove that camouflage. He threw away the white cloak and the hat, revealing his battle gear from under, and face your punishment, Orochimaru.